All right. Hello, people. Today, it's a delight for me. I have Mr. Christopher Genovese here, sharing his journey and then in art, and then about his challenges along the way, dealing with depressing times, doing art. And first of all, I'm a big fan of his. His Bruce Lee sculpture is just great. This made me really proud as a Hong Kong person as well. So without further ado, Mr. Christopher, can you talk about a little bit more about your art and then a little bit introduction about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm nervous or if I drank too much coffee or if I did too many push-ups, but my heart is pounding.
Sounds like all of
Uh,
those. Like coffee gets me going, man. I considered it as well.
well, I did it kind of as a reflex. I thought I would need the energy, but a bunch of things happened just before we started recording that got
Mm-hmm.
me super agitated.
Oh,
So
all right.
this might be your first podcast where someone has a panic attack live on the
That's
podcast,
great.
but
That's great material. Come on, give it to me.
I'll try. I'll try to keep that from happening because
Yeah,
it could
that's
go
like
either.
when I just started tattooing, I always
Yeah,
wanted coffee, but I know I don't need it. And then it just screws thing up. My heart is pumping, and then my hands start to shake.
yeah,
And then yeah, and then my mentor just told me, "Hey, we never drink coffee because you make your hands shaky."
yeah.
Yeah,
Good point. Yeah,
in tattooing, I'm
yeah.
not sure about. Yeah.
We have so much to talk about. I actually there was a period of time where I was seriously pursuing being a tattoo artist. It went a different direction. We could talk about that, but
Yeah.
uh, uh, yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. I've always been an artist. I've always been interested in being creative. It's completely not within my control. It's just like since I was 2 years old, I
I
was
could
interested
relate.
in
I
other
could relate.
people's art. I would bug my mom, draw me this, draw me that. I'd make her draw the same three things over and over again: brontosaurus, shark, and a skeleton.
Brownosaurus, not T-Rex.
No, I liked
Uh,
brontosauruses. I don't know why, but
Is
but
is
yeah,
is it
I
because the movie Littlefoot? Have you watched Littlefoot when you were a
I'm
kid?
sure it was. Yes,
Yeah, I
actually,
loved it.
I
I
haven't
loved it.
thought of that movie in years.
Yeah.
I almost forgot it existed.
It
That's
scared the
amazing.
heck out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember enough about it to even remember if it was scary or not, but
They just demonized the T-Rex so much. I remember like the eyes are red and stuff, like use
yeah,
the dark color tones. Yeah.
sad.
But
Poor T-Rex.
dinosaurs, yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah, all artists are obsessed with dinosaurs as kids, I think, because they're like
Yeah.
they're mythical beings that actually did exist.
Yeah.
So they're part of history, but they're also monsters of our imagination. So
Yes. Some of
but I
my
took
earlier drawings were I was watching Ninja Turtles as a kid. I was just
mhm.
drawing the turtles fighting a dinosaur. Like
I
very
wish I had been more prepared. I should have brought out my
no,
old. I
it's all
have
right. It's all right.
my
It's all right.
old portfolio from no, but when my
No,
old
no, no,
portfolio
no.
from when I was a kid, I have it's all dinosaurs and Ninja Turtles. That's all it is.
Really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's the way to go, man.
But
All right. Yeah.
yeah, so I kind of took notes for this. I hope you don't mind.
No, it's fine. Totally fine.
And my structure is kind of, I think, similar to what we talked about, the subject wise.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
so I'm just going to go down my kind of
Sure.
notes if that's okay.
Sure. Sure.
First of
Awesome.
all, I wanted to start off by with a caveat for anyone watching this. I am definitely not a doctor, and I'm definitely not a scientist.
Yeah, we're just artists that draw stuff.
We're just artists,
Yeah.
and we're just human beings doing the best we can. And so I just wanted to say that because, you
Yeah, yeah.
know, the
Yeah,
thing, the myth,
this is not professional help people, but we've been
definitely
through
not.
something, we've learned a little bit, and we're
No,
yeah, we like to share it if it helps anyone. That's my
right.
vision as well.
Sometimes I fantasize about pretending to be a doctor, but well, that's a different subject. Um, but so, you know, with depression, you wanted to talk about depression.
Yeah.
I wrote in a note just to say like, well, for anyone who doesn't have depression, has never experienced it, how would you categorize it? And how I would describe depression as like a disorder It's kind of biological in nature. However it happens, whether it's genetic or it's from experiences when you're young, the end result is that you really can't regulate your emotions. They're just kind of not in your control as much as you'd like. And part of the outcome of that is that a lot of the time you spend not able to do the things that you know you need to do, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. You can't think happy thoughts. Everything like hurts and it shouldn't. You can't move as fast as you want to move. And it's just a kind of a litany of all these symptoms that come together to make your life a living hell. And then like a storm cloud, it'll just pass if you're lucky. And like me, it came in like storms and then would
Mm-hmm.
go away and then come back and then go away.
The
So
way,
that's,
yeah, that's
yeah.
really artistic description. The way I describe it to people is like it's like that water. It goes higher and higher, and then you start to suffocate.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it just drowns you, and then everything's dark and
Yeah.
blurry because underwater is it's not like clear water. It's like those alligator lakes, and
Yeah.
everything becomes a blur. Yeah, that's the way I describe it to
That's
people.
definitely another great explanation of it. Cause I would often think that I'm just trying to keep my nose above
Yes,
water and
yes, you got
everyone's
that feeling, right? Yeah, yeah.
floating on a float somewhere, or
Yes.
they're in a boat paddling, like, what a nice
Yeah.
day. I'm just like, ah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Hi.
So um, if I have any goals in this podcast, it would be to just kind of communicate what worked for me, but it's my own personal experience. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it would work for anyone else. And if you had told me what was going to work for me when I was younger, I wouldn't have believed you that, oh, that can't be,
Yes.
it can't be that,
It
or that
needs to
can't be the solution.
be the right time. It can't be that
Yeah.
easy, right? Having a
Yeah.
walk, having some sun, really? No.
Right. Yeah.
Uh
Imagine that.
yeah, there's something related I just read earlier is like guides and tips or sharing from people is just they're sharing the map that worked for them.
Hmm.
It's just a reference at best because you're a different human being and you got different perspectives, right? So you're trying to climb a hill and some people did it and they're just describing their experience of climbing that hill, not
Hmm.
to devalue their tips or anything, but that worked
Hmm.
for him and it could be a good reference point to
Hmm.
start off with. But it's always your journey at the end, like
Right.
to whoever that's listening, like hopefully this helps. It serves as a guideline, but at
Hmm.
the end it's still your walk, it's still your hike through
Right.
the mountain. No, yeah.
You got to do it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And different people can describe the landscape from one
Yes.
perspective and another
Yes.
perspective, but they don't have your unique perspective, and you have to kind of take information from each side and go, okay, well,
Yes.
so,
To have a more 3D
and draw your own map. Right.
perspective.
So
Yes.
that's exactly right. Um, um, yeah. So my notes
It's all
are,
right. It's
so
all right.
the whole
All right.
thing is like, so if you want to solve it, it's going to come at a cost. If you have depression, and whatever the solution is, it's not going to be free and it's not going to be instantaneous. So anyone that's one thing I can say. Anyone who's telling you, oh, it's going to be easy and you're going to solve it overnight, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So on some level, it's going to cost time, energy, attention, and sometimes money to get you to where you need to be. And for me, and this is one critical thing I want to mention. For me, the pivotal moment in my life where it was kind of a phase shift, or like in rocket, for a rocket metaphor, it's like a stage separation where the bottom stage separates and then the engine on the second stage comes on,
That's
and then
pretty
and,
visual.
and then
That's
you're
great.
going. So that moment for me was when I finally found out how, and we'll talk about how, I found out how to distinguish the things about myself that I couldn't change from the things about myself that I could change. And once I freed myself of trying to change things I couldn't change about myself, suddenly it was like the gas tank grew by 50%. And so
Wow.
I had that much more energy, time, money, and attention to devote to things that now actually could be changed. And all that stuff and it was like a relief and a weight off my shoulders too, figuring out, okay, these things cannot be changed about me. And
Yeah.
I've tried my whole life to do that, and it
Mhm.
hasn't worked. So that was huge for me.
That's a great metaphor. And then you
Thank you.
actually identified that the things you couldn't change is like that empty tank on the rocket. You don't need it anymore,
You
and
just
then you
discard
just
it.
let it
Yeah.
go. It's just dragging you, and then you just go
Yeah.
faster. That's great.
Right, because
That's
it's
beautiful.
it is a battle all the time, and you're spending so much energy and attention trying to get yourself just your
Yes.
neck, just keep your head above the
Yeah,
water.
just trying to breathe.
Yeah, and that's a cost that people without, this experience don't have to pay. And so you look around and you go, wow, why am I paying so much more for the same thing? And
Can I answer that? My
yeah,
answer is gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth more to me because at the end it's all investing on yourself, right? And
right.
then and then um, revaluing yourself, putting more value on yourself. Because in my experience, is my depression is like you are putting no value on yourself. That's why
Hmm.
I can't spend time on myself, and then I can't put effort on it to make myself better. And it's just a point that I realize, all right,
Hmm.
uh, I'm the most important person for myself in this reality, in this experience. So
Hmm.
slowly, I just teach myself to value myself more. Then
Hmm.
I slowly could invest more time and resources on myself. Then I
Hmm.
got better. It's
Yeah,
kind of like,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like that.
And what choice do you have? Because if
That's
you're
the
not going to
best
do
bet already.
if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it? And if you don't do it, you're just going to die.
Mm-hmm,
If you're just waiting for a solution to fall out of the sky,
mm-hmm.
eventually that water is going to go above your head, and
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
So
Once you stop trying to swim,
right, right,
you're just gonna go down the river, and the alligator's gonna get you. No
right.
Brachiosaurus, no dinosaurs, sadly. I would pick a Mosasaurus if I could.
No,
Mosasaurus.
man, I have a fear of sea monsters.
Oh, oh, that's great, man. That's great.
Like a deep fear. And
So
I
those
actually,
those deep fish scare you? The ones they wash up to the shore, those ones, those
well,
designs are so good.
oh no, they're beautiful. I mean, as
Yeah,
animals, they're beautiful, but I'm just
yeah,
saying, like, on a visceral, primal level, since I
yeah.
was a kid, I've always had a fear of the monsters of the sea, which,
It's like space unknown, right?
well, yeah, it's because it is the unknown. It's the dragon from the underworld that it's
It's like the
mythological.
alien from the first movie.
Right. You don't know
It's
where it
just
is. It could be
yeah.
anywhere, and it could jump on you, Although you watched the original Alien, I thought the alien, it just wanted a hug. It always like reach out to
Yeah, yeah, really. At first,
people. I just want a
the
hug.
yeah, yeah. Maybe he just wanted a hug. No one understood him.
I think that was the original plot, but
Yeah,
the studio didn't like it, and they
yeah.
changed
They
it.
shot him out of space.
Said, look,
Hugs. We don't need love. Come on. This is a manly movie. We don't need girly hugs.
they did the
Press
right thing.
button.
It's a better movie for it. Yeah. um. So, so what ended up happening? Oh, so let me get okay. Now I'll go back to the beginning.
Yeah,
So
sure, sure.
that was a huge pivotal moment for me. Was realizing, oh, holy shit, there's things about me I can't change. But since I was a kid, I've always been, and I think I'd be surprised if the majority of artists aren't like this. I've always just been sensitive generally to everything, highly sensitive to emotions. If I felt sad, I felt really sad. If I felt happy, I felt really happy.
Yeah,
And so
totally
anything
could relate.
I was feeling, it was going to be deep anyway. Um, and I think that, like, even if you have creative parents, a kid has certain needs, and it's kind of like a black box. You're not really sure what this kid's going to need. And for me, I feel like I needed uh, a certain kind of, I don't know, uh, just a wisdom about how to regulate emotions that needed to be instantiated in me early on. And that wasn't present. My parents were kind of just, doing their thing, being parents, and the skills I ended up having to learn as an adult were so complex and ridiculous that you could never expect any parents to be able to just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
teach their kid what they're gonna, what they're in for or whatever. So I was just sensitive generally. I don't know if you had the same,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get really happy, and then when I was sad back in the days, I got really sad. I just hide in the bed all day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't really remember being sad until maybe around 7 years old. Like
Oh, that's really early.
but
7-year-old, I'm still in Ninja Turtle phase. I think I'm
well,
still relatively happy.
yeah, when I think about my childhood, I was I felt very happy, all the time. Even my mom said I never cried when I was a kid. I just never
I,
cried,
I was
even as
just
a
going to
baby.
go there.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
cried. People told me when since even as a baby, I don't cry. Like they legit thought there's something wrong with me. Cause yeah, I didn't cry even as a kid
Yeah.
and a baby. So yeah, that we got that in common at least.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is. Maybe it's part of the developmental process. There's a certain age where things kind of kick on, but um, you know, the other thing is combined with the sensitivity is being creative, naturally creative. You have a overactive imagination. So when things did start to turn, when I did start to have problems, or everybody's life is, you're going to run into problems, you're going to run into complications and things that make you sad or whatever. I think the imagination prevented me from confronting things directly and then learning lessons early on, because I always had an escape. I can always start to fantasize, watch a movie, draw, disappear into another world. And so I could
Yeah,
avoid
even
actually,
spacing out, right?
or just spacing out. Yeah.
I could relate. When I
Yeah.
was just trying to do things, I would just imagine like ninjas running around. I still have that memory as a kid, and then they'll jump on this light pole and then they'll run along there. Ah, interesting, interesting. I got it.
Oh, so you were like hallucinating. You were like
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
things.
exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just watched Rocky movies and RoboCop and
Really,
Jaws, and
age
yeah, I just
seven,
watched.
age
Oh yeah,
seven. You
well my
got great
parents.
taste, man. Your parents got
Oh
great taste.
oh yeah, my I was lucky that my parents were into some good music and some good movies, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't let me see rated R movies, but they would tape movies off the TV that were like censored,
Wow. Yeah.
and so we'd have those old VHS tapes, and you'd pop them in, and they'd be horrible quality, but
Uh-huh.
I just watched the same movies over and over again, and that was like, even
Wow.
before I ever had any kind of issues with emotions, that was always the thing that thrilled me the most, was watching movies, and that's where I got all my inspiration from, and where would draw things from.
Mm-hmm.
If I was really into Jaws, I'd be drawing sharks all the time. If I was really
Mm-hmm.
into Ninja Turtles, I'd be drawing Ninja Turtles all the time.
Yeah.
The Simpsons, I'd be drawing Bart Simpson. So whatever I was into, Indiana Jones, I'd be drawing it, and just kind of in my own world all the time. And it's not that I didn't play with other kids,
And
but
make
I
your
prefer.
own version. No, I could
Oh yeah,
totally relate. Like
yeah.
you could play with some kids on the playground, of course. But in my mind, like Ninja Turtles fighting T-Rex, hey, I want to draw that thing out.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I was doing mashups when I was a little kid. I was drawing Bart Simpson as the Terminator, and he was
Wow.
with
See,
his
see,
face
that's
torn
so much
apart.
more interesting. That's
Yeah.
why you didn't play with other kids. Yeah, that's
Well, it's funny.
I can relate.
You're making me remember right now, actually, that preschool. What age is that? 3 or 4? Okay, so I
Probably.
think around 3 or 4 years old, I went to preschool, and I remember having anxiety. I remember being around other kids and being terrified and feeling like uncomfortable, and going home and telling my mom that I didn't like it here. I don't like the kids. Nobody likes me. The narrative started forming in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to be my friend,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to go home and be alone. And my mom said, "You okay? Fine." And she pulled me out of school, and I went home, and I just didn't finish preschool. I spent the rest of the year at home drawing. I never, you know, uh,
That's a great.
I don't know which way it would have gone. If
I
she had
know, I
said no,
know.
you're gonna stay there. I don't know if it would have been better or worse, but
I
that's just how
think
it
I
turned out.
think irresponsible answer. I think this is a better choice because because your words value so much to your mother. It must mean more to what do I mean? I mean it must build more to your relationship with your mom and to you
Mm.
because she values your opinion so much at a young age. Because Asia culture, nobody cares. I tell you, like even though hey mom, I don't want to go to school, she'll be like, oh yeah, sure. And then the next morning she'll just pick me up to school.
Drop you off and drive
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to talk about my family and my parents a lot.
yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, totally
Talking about
related. If
growing
if you
up.
could open up to that level, of course.
Well,
Yes.
no, I'm just going to say, like, I have to. It's kind of just by telling my own
Yeah, it's
story.
the whole
I have to
package.
talk
I
about,
understand.
and
Yes,
I don't
me
want to
too as
give
well.
right, right. The past informs us as much as what we're made of, our genetics and our, whatever,
Yeah.
our inheritance in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, I
But I
relate
don't,
so
but
much. But when you tell non-depressed people like depression is a gene, I think it's DNA. It must be a gene.
yeah,
I tell people this, they're like, no, 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 you're crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's totally the thing, right?
Well, it could, my opinion, if you want to know my opinion,
Yeah.
I think it is 50-50. I think
Yes, yes,
your
that's the best
genes,
answer.
prepare you for a proclivity in one direction or another. The same experience could, I mean, because my parents raised three other kids. I have three other siblings, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
like me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have one brother who shares a lot in common with me as far as mood goes, and then I have another brother who's almost a totally different personality. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have problems. We all do. And then my
Mm-hmm.
sister is more like him. So, but they all grew up in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, like, how your body's going to react to certain experiences, that's up to your body. That's not up to the experience is going to be what it is. But if I have a gene polymorphism, that means that I can't absorb vitamin D properly. Well, I can't regulate serotonin. So if I'm put in the room with someone else who
Yes,
can
it's actually
regulate,
very scientific. Yes.
right? So again, scientist, but
Doctors,
if I
scientists, hello,
doctor and
hello.
scientist, I am a doctor and a scientist actually, but so your genes are going to prepare you for one fate or another fate, but then experience comes in and goes,
Yeah.
takes you in the direction
At
it's
least
going
at
to
a
take you.
younger age before your experience and before you're aware that you have 50% to play, and
Right.
then the influence is just bigger as you when you're a kid because you didn't realize this.
Right. Well, I mean, people grow up with it, they want for nothing, and they grow up in a wealthy family, and they have people who are very loving around them, and they have all the resources they could possibly want. They go on lots of vacations. They have cosmetically on the surface what anyone in the world would describe as a life where there's nothing wrong with it,
Yeah.
but they could still feel like
Yes.
I feel empty inside. What's wrong with me?
Yes. Yes.
And what do you tell them? You tell them, oh, it's because you have a horrible life. No, it's so complicated, and there's so many factors coming in, and let's just bounce around because I have my
Yeah.
list.
Sure. Sure.
I,
This
I
is
really
fun.
just
Come on.
wrote it so I wouldn't forget
Let's
anything.
go. Let's go.
That was one of the hangups for me. One of the obstacles for me was getting over this idea that there was one solution. I was looking for one thing that would just stop me from this cycle of moods going like this. And it was mostly down. It was mostly kind of leveled off and then down and then leveled off.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really what I would describe as happy.
Mm-hmm.
I was at times, satisfied with the way things were going and
Just
kind of
less sad.
not as sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then, oh God, there's so much to talk about. But so
Yeah. Sure.
so
Sure.
I was always looking for one thing or another, the right the right friend, or the right place to be, the right city to live in, or the right job, or the right girlfriend, or the right exercise routine, or the right pill.
This is what we are conditioned to believe, right? Especially growing up in this society. Like there
That
must
it's
be
going to be
one
easy.
solve. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's easy and it's one soft answer. Buy our product on TV,
yeah,
call this phone number, and then solve. This is
and
like
fast and
yeah,
fast,
and fast and
instantly.
fast, just like this. Ah, solved. This is like
So that, yeah,
the commercial or advertising problem we have in our day and age. It is, and it's relatively new, right? I don't think this is like for I think 50 years tops. This kind of
that's nothing.
conditioning. Yeah,
That's nothing. 50 years is
yeah.
nothing.
So we don't
We're
even have
millions of
the
years old. Yeah.
yeah, that's nothing. So we don't even have the have the experience to deal with this kind of stuff. Like how much this kind of information is screwing up people in their minds. This kind of conditioning, like it's a fast fix. Buy this.
That's a
Done.
question. I always ask myself that question too. It's like, what are people 100 years from now going to look back on and go, wow, they were really crazy back then. Did you see how they were doing this?
Yeah,
And
they
yeah, I
actually
think,
believed it will fix the problem.
and nobody knows now we just accept it. There's crazy things going on all around us that we just kind of accept. But I can't imagine that in 100 years, people won't look back at this podcast and other and all the shit
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. God knows what
Mm-hmm.
YouTube's going to be in 100 years.
Yeah.
Probably have blown ourselves up, but um, there's one of the things that I think that is so weird is the way advertising and the pace of life that's
And
sold
just
to
how
us
much they can get away
gets in our
with.
heads. Oh yeah. What do
It's
you mean?
irresponsible, for
That
lack of
who
a
can get
better
away with?
term. Yeah.
That who can get away with?
Who could get
But
away with? The guy who wrote it. It's that's why the issue is complex. It's just not one person. It's a group of person
right.
who crack the code on your DNA on how do you make a decision on a purchase. So
Oh
they will
right. Yeah.
do, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like you watch podcasts and hear people do interviews about the guys in Silicon Valley who developed these apps and these different things to hack into your
Mm-hmm.
limbic system and keep
Mm-hmm.
you scrolling and all that stuff. And I do think
AKA
that
Instagram.
Instagram, yeah. Yeah, guilty. I've been
Me
really
too, because we're
trying to
human.
detox from Instagram lately. Yeah, right. And the guys themselves, they have to put new apps on their phone to keep them from using the apps they created.
Yeah, that's
Right.
how good it
That's
is.
right. So we're all susceptible, but I don't know how I feel about holding them in guilt, ethically or morally
Mm-hmm.
speaking, because sometimes I feel like people are just kind of doing their jobs and they're
Yes.
like not
Yes,
not quite
it's not
sure what
even
the
a
implications
ethical
are
point.
of
Yeah, I
what,
agree with you.
because we're
They're
limited.
just
So
told to make the most maximum money. That's it. So
and
they
and and if they have a family and they have kids and they can't think of a third option, they'll go, okay, well, this is going to be a great way to improve this product and it'll raise our bottom
income.
line.
Yeah.
Right. So but I try to, it's not even that I try to, I think it's actually kind of natural for me just to kind of look at people and feel sorry for them. And it's not because I whatever think I'm above them or something. It's
No, no, no.
I feel
I
sorry for them
I
in the sense
understand.
that I feel sorry for, you know, animals getting, eaten by other
Yes.
animals and stuff.
Yes.
I just think we're in kind of a situation on this planet where all bets are kind of off and every day you wake up and shit isn't on fire,
Mm-hmm.
is a lucky day. So, but
Yeah.
that's my attitude now. That wasn't my attitude back when I was a kid.
No, no, that's a lucky day. I like that. I like that ending.
Yeah.
Is a lucky day because you actually get to wake up. You didn't got bombed up when you're sleeping, so that
Yeah.
must be a good day. You could do art. We could still draw
But I
things.
didn't always think like that. I really didn't. Circling back to the whole thing with imagination. So one of my problems with, you know, my mood and regulating my mood, and if that's the goal, is how do we regulate our emotions? For me, one of the problems was that I was constantly comparing what my life was or how I saw it to my imagined idea of a better life. And that was just
That will just destroy you.
I didn't even think
two
about it. It
thousand
was just
percent
how I
relate.
was. It was just how I
Same,
was.
same, same.
And that
Even
when I
now, I
switched
need to
over,
keep that away from me.
yeah,
I
well,
understand.
it's a habit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that was my habit and that was how I lived. And then I can't remember the exact
It's like
date.
the ultimate. What if it? What it could be, right? It's like the ultimate. Like, what if I made all the right choices?
Right.
What would that guy be? But it's
And even if
unrealistic at the
you're
end.
striving for it and you're moving towards it, an ideal is an ideal. And every
Yes,
second that you're constantly comparing your
yes,
life to this
yes.
ideal,
Ideal is called ideal for a reason.
well, yeah, well, it's a thing to aim at. It's not a thing that you're ever going to reach.
Yes,
I mean, you
yes.
try, you orient yourself toward it.
Yep,
It's the
yep,
star that guides you, if you're a
yep.
sailor.
It's the direction you want to go.
Right. So I switched over at a certain point to an attitude of, uh, you know, every day that I wake up and things aren't a million times worse.
That's a great day.
And I started switching my focus to all the ways in which I thought life ought to be, to all the ways in which life probably would be in a different timeline or in a different universe. And it's like, how bad is this timeline compared to the infinite ways it could be worse? And I would think about moments in my life in which if I had made a slightly different choice, things could have been that much better. And I stopped doing that and went, if I had made a slightly different choice, things could have gone completely off a cliff years ago, you know? So that's a kind of a mind hack
Yeah, it's
that's
like
worked for
balancing your
me and might
thoughts,
not
right?
work for other people.
I
Some
have
other
the same
people
thought
might
as
not be
well.
able to even think that.
I
And
could relate.
that's where
Yes.
biology comes in,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you're depressed, you know, sometimes you don't even have access to certain thoughts. Like people say, why don't you just be optimistic? It's like,
Yeah, be happy.
listen,
Why don't you
yeah,
just be happy? Like
like
that.
if your brain is a building and there's a bunch of rooms in the building and there's doors in those rooms, and in each room you have access to different tools. When you're depressed, it's like all the rooms that, you know, have the tools, the happy thoughts, look on the bright side, all the silver
Yeah.
lining thoughts, all those doors are suddenly just locked at once.
Yep.
And you shake the door and you can't get you can't get the happy thought out. The door is locked. And you
Yes.
just kind of have to wait for the, you know, the system to come back online. The power's out. The power has to come back on.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, I was in a world where the power would just go out all the time. And I found a way to switch my life to solar power, you know, with battery backup. And so, you know, the juice was always there when I needed it. And when things, you know, went wrong, I would know why they went wrong. And there was a whole system and a whole process to that took a lifetime of experience to arrive at. It was nothing that anyone could have told me when I was young. You know, I had to have the right experiences, make the right mistakes, lose the things that, you know, I didn't think I could live without losing. And then when I was receptive, and we're going to spin around in circles because I don't think it's, I could go down my list and tell you that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But
It's
you
awesome.
know, there's a certain point at which, I'm sure you're familiar with this saying, you know, you can't fill a cup that's already full. Like you have to empty the
Empty
cup
something out. Yes.
before you can fill it with something new. And for me, I was never receptive because and I didn't realize it, thought I pretty much knew everything there was to know about myself from a certain point of view. And I had to get put in situations where I couldn't deny anymore that I wasn't who I thought I was. And that I was buying into my own cover story. You know, I was buying into my own propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, just need to be
that takes
honest to yourself at a certain point and then empty the things that you thought was in there.
or redraw your map from your earlier, you
Yeah,
know,
just admit
your
that
map
you
is
you drew
wrong.
something wrong. You need
Mhm.
to say, oh yeah, that's most likely, yeah, not the
And
correct map.
that's what it's like, you know, when you constantly run into these depressive episodes and things. It's like you're trying, you think you have a map that applies to the world and you're trying to navigate it, and then you just keep walking into a brick wall. And you're like, there's not supposed to be a wall here.
Yeah,
And then you have to throw out your map completely and just look at everything, you know, from scratch and redraw it. And that's pretty much what I did. But
sounds about right.
it takes a catastrophe to do. It took me for me, it took a catastrophe. It took like 10 horrible things happening right in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just kind of keeping my head above water, and I had to like sink down to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, before I realized, you know, that there needed to be another way. So things kind of, you know, things kind of went along for a while you know, growing up. I did the best I could, you know, with I had a whole story here.
Great.
My phone keeps falling asleep and I feel rude. Like, look, I feel like that
No,
guy who's like,
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I got my cat here.
oh,
My
cool.
cat.
Yeah, my cats are in the other room.
It's all right. Say
Oh
hi.
shit, it's nice. I got a gray one too. That's a
Yeah.
nice one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gigi, see? He's depressed too, like daddy.
What's their name?
This is Gigi.
Gigi.
Yeah, because my friend is pretty lazy with names.
Yeah.
He just names his cat A to Z.
Mhm.
So apparently she's G. So A
Okay.
calls A, B, C, D, E, like this.
Nice. Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
lazy. Yeah.
yeah. But she got the good one. Gigi sounds like a legit name.
No, that is a good name. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that one. That's like me and passwords. I hate coming up with new passwords. I just get so
Yeah.
frustrated, and I wish I could just put in like password one, password two.
Oh, oh, hey, don't tell people my password.
No, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. I sit there for an hour.
Yeah.
I lose an hour of my time coming up with a stupid, and then I don't like it, and then I change it.
Oh.
Um, but I should mention this. So, like, my personal experience, everyone has their own flavor of depression. For me, on top of the just regular run of the mill sensitivity, around the time I was 7, there was a bunch of changes that happened. My family moved. My mom got pregnant with another little brother, and I wasn't the baby anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which affected me. I was like, oh, my whole world has changed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and these things I don't necessarily interpret as, a lot of people say, well, this happened in your childhood and that's what caused this. I don't think it led to anything. I think it was a predictor of what would come. And when my mom got pregnant with another kid, I immediately felt afraid of being abandoned. I felt afraid of, oh, I don't matter anymore. And so, like, this narrative was always just kind of forming itself. And it eventually grew into like a religion in my own brain, where the same 20 thoughts would just happen all the time. And they were so frequent that I would just, at a certain point, I would just write them down and go, man, I keep having these same 20 thoughts over and over again. What is this about?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but around the time I was 7 years old, we moved. Uh, I got a new little brother. I went to a new school, lost all my friends from my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And then around that time, a disorder I have, a neurological disorder, switched on.
Mm-hmm.
So, as if things weren't crazy enough, I have a neurological disorder called misophonia. I don't know if have you ever heard of it? So misophonia is one of the stupidest problems to have.
Oh, come on.
It's a neurological disorder where my brain interprets certain sounds as like physical touch, and it's only a certain select group of sounds.
Really?
The senses are just kind of blurred,
Okay.
and the sounds. It's not just that; it's also that it stimulates my, I don't know what part of my
Fight or
brain.
flight?
It stimulates the fight or flight response. And so around the time I was 7 years old, out of nowhere, I just started having these, like being electric shocked. I started having these reactions to certain sounds that I would hear, common sounds you hear every day. They're almost unavoidable.
What
Uh,
was the sounds? Can I know?
Well, yeah, so it's different for everybody, but the most common one is the one I have, and that is the sound of people chewing with their mouth open,
Mm-hmm.
breathing. If I'm in an elevator with you and I start to hear you breathe, I just
Yeah.
start to sweat, right? So it sounds made
Oh.
by the mouth and nose. If you have a cold and you sniffle and you have snot,
Yeah.
if you clear your throat, so it's mouth, nose, and throat sounds, and they're very common and they're almost unavoidable. So anytime I'd have a meal with someone, and human
Mm-hmm.
beings bond over meals,
Mm-hmm.
people bond over eating.
Yeah.
So imagine how that'll impact your life, that you can't ever eat with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that, just cut that
Wow.
out of your life. So, but I would still try to do it. So I would have the stress of just forcing myself into situations in which I was being tortured. And
Mm.
so from the time I was 7, I was basically living in a world where every day, at least 3 times a day, I was like being prodded with a cattle prod, electric
Whoa.
shocked. And then I'd try to go to sleep at night, and it'd be having a cold sweat listening to my brother in the room breathing.
Mhm.
So this was an unbelievable amount of stress, and no one knew what it was. There was no name for it. The internet wasn't even a thing when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So it's not like you could look it up. I didn't find out what it even was until I was in my late 20s. But it completely destroyed my life in a way. It destroyed the world I knew. And suddenly I was in this world where there was ghosts and monsters around me, and everyone's like, I can't see them.
Mhm.
But like, I'm like, they're right there, they're attacking me. And they're like, no, you're fine, you're making it up. So my parents and my teachers and anyone I would even have the courage to talk to about it wouldn't know what to do. And often the responses would be hostile to me. I'm dying hearing these sounds and freaking out, and terrified, and I don't know what to do. And the responses I'm getting from people are, you know nuh-uh. They'll just say, no, no, you're not. Or they'll
Mhm.
say, um, well, it's something you're doing and it's your fault and you just need to, grow up. That's not helpful. And then the best response is, well, you're making it up just to hurt me. And you're just doing this just to hurt me.
Mm.
So, I'm drowning and people are pushing me under the water, and that's just life. So when you think of depression as something that is like constant exhaustion, everything hurts, everything takes forever, you're full of
Yeah.
stress, having that extra level of stress all the time, you just have no energy for
Yes,
anything. You
and a lot of times people are not prepared to help as well. Because if you haven't been through this or you don't have knowledge about this, you're just going in naively, and then you
Mhm.
try to help a friend. Like some of my friends try to help me at the start. They just don't believe the things that you share with them because it's hard. And then
Yeah,
to a certain extent, it's human nature as well to reject negative energy. So at the end,
absolutely.
so I stopped blaming them, of course,
Mhm.
when I mature. But after I realized what is happening, because yeah, like we discussed, it's just human nature to reject negative energy. At the end, like whether how bad we feel or not, because the action we're doing is just spreading negative energy, right? So you
Right.
can't blame them even as an animal. They just reject negative stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a default response for people. It's not really who they are.
Yeah.
That's at least what I told myself.
And I hear you, and that's how I feel now. But at the time, it seemed like, another abandonment. It was like, oh, you know, if anyone's supposed to help me, it's the people who are closest to me, and they don't even want to help me. So
Mm-hmm.
the world is a cold, dark place where even the people who are supposed to be there for you
Mm-hmm.
turn you into an enemy.
Yes.
But I have a lot of, my heart goes out to my family, because as at my current age and in my life experience, I understand just how odd that must have been, how strange it must have been, and also what I was asking of them. The way people talk and the way people chew is like, it's instantiated in your it's called performative memory or procedural memory. It's called procedural memory. It's like trying to change your accent or trying to change
Yes.
how you walk. That
Yes.
you're not thinking of it, you're not conscious of
It's
it.
almost unchangeable, right?
Right. So, but it is changeable, but it's changeable only with great conscious effort. And that's a lot to ask of people, to
Mm-hmm.
completely be making sure at all times that they're not doing something
Chewing or
to set
breathing.
you up. Right. And so, we could talk about this one subject for like 3 hours, but my
Does Darth Vader scare you then? Because he's
say
always
again?
breathing. Darth Vader. Does he scare
No,
you
he
the
doesn't.
most?
No, 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 no. But
Somehow that gets a pass.
no, because I have control of him. I can turn him off. Like I'm
Ah.
there's all these kinds of
Oh, that's so
hacks that,
powerful. You control Darth Vader. Ah,
well, yeah. So,
that's
but
powerful.
when you're taking a test in school and the guy next to you is chewing gum,
Yeah.
and you're 11 years old and no
You
one
can't
believes
turn him
you,
off. Where's the off switch? You can't turn him off,
no,
right?
you want to kill him.
Hmm.
And that's the thing that talk to anyone with misophonia.
Yes.
It's like a life or death crisis, and your instinct is, okay, I have to run away or I have to put this person down. you know i have
Two
to take
choices.
I have to
Hmm.
take this person out, and
Okay.
you can't do either of those. So, I would just have heart attacks every day, just everywhere I went. Getting on a plane, sitting next to a dude on a plane on a
Mm-hmm.
5-hour flight, and he's snoring,
Mm-hmm.
bro. It's a stupid problem to have, but um,
It just
that
makes you stronger. Does it make you stronger as a person? Can you say yes? No. Like,
you know what?
you say
Honestly,
yes.
honestly, no, it doesn't make you stronger. But I think that I think it might have made me a better person, because what it ended up doing was it alienated me in a way to where I lived my life like an outcast, like a person on the margins of society, where I felt like an alien everywhere I went, that I could recognize other people who felt like aliens for whatever reason. And I was drawn to people who felt marginalized or oppressed or in a shit situation that wasn't fair. And so I was drawn to those people. And the kind of lessons that I learned made that the wisdom I got from the experience of this stupid torment made me more receptive to people who had stupid problems. And I could see, and they would go, "You'll never believe me. This is such a ridiculous thing." Or, "I know it sounds strange, but nothing sounds strange to me. Nothing," because I didn't believe what was going on for the longest time. And I don't know if I didn't have it, if I wouldn't have had depression, but I can definitely say it made depression worse.
Of
And
course,
because
certainly.
it's another level of stress. And one of the things that for me was a game changer to regulate my overall emotions was the discipline of stress management. And again, tying in with accepting the things about yourself you can't change. That's a journey everyone has. You have to figure out what you can't change. And we can talk about how you know what it is you can't change, because I definitely know what I can't change. But once you know what it is you can't change, you can focus on the things you can change, and you can mitigate your stress, your load of stress to the best of your ability. And for me, it's like, okay, well, this is my responsibility now. I've lived my life long enough to know that this isn't something I'm going to change. And I kind of took an inventory of how it worked, described it to myself, made an Excel spreadsheet, wrote down, the level of all the triggers and all this stuff. And over time, you start to develop strategies and habits. It's a combination of avoid. Sometimes I just have to avoid things. Like I moved to the desert. I literally I moved 3,000 miles from my home so I could live in a place that was quieter and had less, neighbor noise, and the cost of living was such that I could have space around me.
Yeah.
So you have to make sacrifices and tend to your needs. And if you're not willing to do that, it's like nobody's going to come and save you. So you have to figure out what you need. And I did, I went where I needed to go, and I wear headphones when I need to wear headphones. And I don't any longer have the need for people to blend in with people. And I don't need people to think that I'm just like them and that I don't have this problem. If somebody's bothering me, I slap on my headphones or my earbuds.
Yes.
Thank God we live in a world now where everyone has earbuds in.
Yeah.
No one cares anymore. But as a kid, I remember getting my first CD player as a kid and sitting down at the dinner table with my CD player, and I put on my headphones and just like, whew, all right, well, this is
different world.
Thank God. And then
greatest invention ever.
Well, my mom looked at me and she's like, "You're not wearing that." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "No, you can't put that on. That's rude or whatever." She's like, "You're not wearing that at the dinner table." I was just like, and I just had to get tortured, and it was nothing I could do. So, and I wasn't one of those kids who was like, "Fuck you, mom." There's kids like that now. I was terrified of my parents. I couldn't tell them that.
That's good.
But so that I had to, as far as regulating mood was concerned, it was completely complicated, and it wasn't one solution. It wasn't the right pill. It wasn't the right girlfriend. It wasn't the right friend. It wasn't the right job.
Surprise, right?
It was a combination of, I want to say, like 17 different things. And I ended up so I had a series of catastrophes in my life. I had kind of like, I lived with this problem for a long time. I kind of just lived my life. And then a bunch of things went wrong all at once. And I kind of was in a position where I had to completely question everything about my life. And it was in that moment that I started to become receptive to new ideas. And luckily happened upon friggin' YouTube and podcasts. And I was introduced to doctors and psychologists and intellectuals and philosophers and all these things that now that I'm receptive and I'm in this kind of hole, I'm at the bottom of a well, all this information is now coming in, and I have no job and I have no money and I have no life, and I'm living at home with family now because my life is completely exploded. But I'm receptive, and I'm starting to like combine all these things into this whole new picture of the world. And then I'm starting to look at myself.
You're making that new map, right? You're drawing that new map.
I'm drawing the new map, and I put together a spreadsheet of 17 dimensions of things to keep track of every day. So now I do mindfulness meditation, and I have this Excel spreadsheet that is active meditation, where I'm mindful of every single little thing that can possibly, and I've been doing this for 5 years now. I've been taking this since January 1st, 2017. I've been taking
Yeah.
an inventory of every possible thing that could interact with my mood, that I know
Mm-hmm.
from experience has an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
And literally within a year, you could say I was emotionally regulated. And I was, it's not that I was Superman and I had no, vulnerabilities. I still
Mm-hmm.
had triggers. I still had things I needed to avoid. I
Mm-hmm.
still screwed up. I ate the
Mm-hmm.
wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
I had contact with people I knew I shouldn't have contact with.
Mm-hmm.
We can go over all the dimensions, what it involves, but it
But
was
after
the
solving it,
answer was complicated.
it
The
must feel
answer was
awesome, right?
extremely complicated.
It must feel
Oh,
great after you solved it.
I'm waiting for it to change. Like, I'm waiting for like something, some loop, some surprise, but it hasn't changed. It's really like the triggers are still the same. The patterns are still the same. And I'm almost in a place to where I it's almost like a problem that it's working so well. And my brain is like, how can we fuck this up? How can we screw this
Have
situation?
you ever looked at it as a game? As a game that you have to play?
Not consciously, but at times maybe. I became playful with it, and I had fun, kind of like, just, well, this is what I have to do. Once you accept things, once you know that you can't avoid them, you can start to kind of like have a good attitude about them, and I guess in a sense turn it into a game.
Yeah, I
But no,
actually
I never
learned
really.
to
Yeah.
play with it. As sick as that
Yeah.
sounds, because
No,
it's a
I
game I must
totally
play
dig it. Yeah.
to feel happy. That's my only shot to be like quote unquote happy. So
Well, there's a philosopher. I guess he's a philosopher, or was a philosopher, Alan Watts, who I'm like obsessed with.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, he talks about religions, and I'm kind of like, my affinity for religion is a mixture of Western and Eastern, and I kind of jump back and forth between the two, and I see what's of value in each.
Mm-hmm.
But the Hindu idea of life being like a dance and like a performative play,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like a construction in Western religions,
Yeah.
like it's an object and it's material.
Yes.
This is all like a dream and like a play. And I love that idea so
It's a
much.
movie, right? That's what they say. It's a movie.
Well,
It needs to be played out, and you
well,
could
it
enjoy
comes
it.
back to the Hagakure, where it's, when you have a bad dream and you wake up, you go, oh, it was only a dream.
Yeah.
And that's like a movie too. Don't worry, it's only a movie.
Yeah.
Well, if you have that attitude about life, and you approach it playfully, you
Yeah.
go, and that in a way, it's not conscious, but I kind of do treat things as a game sometimes, where when things go horribly wrong, I just start
Yeah.
laughing.
Yes.
I just start laughing.
Yes.
I go,
I could
oh,
relate.
really?
I could
Really?
relate. Yeah. This level again. Oh, come on. I know how to solve this. I
Yeah.
know where to jump. I know where to attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you get hit by that,
Yeah.
that bad guy,
Just
and
a
then you
little
die
bit
and you
of
got to go back to where you were. Yeah.
side tangent. Do you see things when you meditate?
Bro, I see things just all the time.
All right. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I see some of them some of the time, but just sharing some of when I started meditating, I think 3 months in, I start to go to a different space where I could actually find joy. I could name it joy.
Oh, wow.
It's like a kind of spacelessness. Yeah, maybe this is a, I don't know, maybe this is a trigger for you or information for you. I don't know. But
I'll bring it on.
yeah, because it's crazy to me. Because I got my morning routine. It's kind of like your thing.
Yeah.
Because my to help myself to function, I got the sunshine, if I could get it, some simple workout, some lemon juice, some diet thing that I worked out through the years. And then one of them is meditation, right? So I started meditating, and I started this podcast, right? Because it's kind of the idea I come from the meditation. Anyways, I want to help people because I've been through this, and then maybe sharing this could could be some of value to some people. So after starting off this, I get to know through a party, my one of my friend's wife is actually an energy healer. So
Oh, wow.
so I just started this like 2 weeks in. I'm like, and I thought of an interesting question. So do you think being depressed is related to ghosts and stuff and negative energy? And what did she say? She's like, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, wow. Because then I was like straight in, do you want to do a podcast? She's like, heck yeah, let's do it. So sadly it's in
Yeah, I was
Cantonese.
gonna say, is that one of the ones in Cantonese?
Yes,
Because I tried to watch them.
yes,
I was like,
sorry, man.
damn.
It's so hard to translate as well, because
Oh yeah,
kind of one of the hardest languages ever.
yeah. To
Uh,
get a good translation, it would be very expensive.
yeah, so I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. We've discussed that is
And to be,
depression.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to be clear, a second ago when you mentioned the ghosts and the demons, I wasn't rolling my eyes like dismissing it. I
Yes.
want to talk about demons with you.
Yeah, sure. Come on, let's go.
But you go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but I'm trying to get the gist of it.
Yeah.
And then we talked about how she used her energy, because she is kind of like a, so we're going into some Asian magic territory here. So she's like a channeler. So
Mhm.
her living is help people to solve like ghost issues. So if there's a ghost in your house, she's gonna solve it for you. If you're depressed, she's like, something's following you, and she
Yeah.
could solve it. Yeah. So she shares stories with me and stuff like that. And then she says, it's most of the time is that your mood attracts certain negative energy. So in Chinese culture, we call it ghosts. It
Sure.
could be a culture thing, it could be a spiritual thing. I don't know. I'm just a student of
Yeah.
life. So
Yeah.
whatever, yeah, I just try to take in information. And then we get into the topic of meditating. And she just warns me, like, if you don't know how to open a bubble, you can't, yeah, it's not safe to meditate, something like that, along those lines. And then actually throughout my life, I had dreams like, I was raised Christian, and then some of the
Oh
times I
wow.
have this dream of golden showers showering down, and then feel myself with gold energy. That
Mhm.
is one of the visuals I use to heal
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So I was just having a Zoom call with her like this. So I was like, okay, I have this vision. So check this out. I try to play that vision in my head. And then she was like, you did it. You covered yourself with energy. I'm like, what? She's like, so
She's
apparently,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all right, all right. But I'm still skeptical, you know. And
Well,
then
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go.
I'll finish it
Sure.
within, yeah. So um but she said the bubble I made, the golden energy bubble I made, it's a little bit weak on the legs. So apparently, maybe because I know why. I actually know why. Because my spine is disfigured. I got a spine
Oh,
issue
yeah.
because they talk about the energy, the different levels in yoga, right? Because your
Yeah.
energy flows from the bottom to your head.
Yeah.
So a physical uh, dysfunction could actually block it, right? So
Hmm.
that's the first thing that came into my mind, and then it actually made sense. So, but I wasn't 100% in. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So
Hmm.
after that, we talked about a little bit more about spirituality, and then fast forward, I met this person, which is she calls herself an angelic healer. It's
Hmm.
kind of like a British spread of the healing world, the
Sure.
energy world. So
Sure.
she's so we we relate a lot, and then I shared about you meditate as well. So I went to her studio and we did some meditation, and she's like, okay, show me how you cover yourself with energy. And then I did the thing, and then she said the same thing. She said, all right, you covered your top half, but it's a little bit weak on the legs. She said the same, and then I was like having the goosebumps and everything.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
'Cause- and then yeah, and then since then I was just trying to understand more, and then on a spiritual level, like what's
Well,
going on and stuff like that.
I think people get hung up on whether to take things literally or to engage with them in a metaphorical sense. And there's a lot of people who are very eager to jump on someone and say, "Oh, that's, the ghosts and demons. Are you kidding me? Ridiculous, whatever." And even in the Christian religion, say, I was one of those in my 20s, one of those people who is like very keen to remind people as often as possible that
Ah, you're one of those,
the
right?
Bible,
I was
the
as well.
Bible isn't literal. You know that, man, right? I was
Yeah,
one of those people.
yeah.
But one of the most profound things that happened to me was because I was raised Catholic. I had the structure of the mythological structure
Same.
of the religion in my head, and I couldn't get rid of it. The imagery, all of it. I was obsessed with the imagery,
Me too,
and
me too.
and obsessed with the myth.
A little bit more on the story I shared with you.
Okay.
Because one of her jobs is to solve some ghost issues down in
Hmm.
mainland China.
Hmm.
And then she has no knowledge of the Bible. She doesn't read it, and she's not
Yeah.
religious and stuff like that. And then she just told me a story of she redirects the ghosts into a pile of pigs, and then the pigs went crazy and they all died. She told me this. I
I
was
don't
like,
know how to
what?
feel about that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, but she told me this, so
yeah.
anyway, I'm just sharing it with you.
If
But
I saw it for myself, I'd have
yeah,
to think about that. But but the point I was that's an amazing story. I'm just focusing on the dead pigs now. That's a scene in a movie now I need to do. But what ended up happening for me was that I was able to leverage the imagery that I had been born into
hmm
uh, it was something that was in my way, and I was constantly having to move out of the way all the time, to something that now I used, and I used the mythological structure and the stories and the imagery as a strength. And it's not to say that I'm suddenly a biblical literalist
I don't think
or a
we
practicing
need to name
Catholic,
anything. I think that's
but
one of the problem with modern age. We so want the fast fix. We want to name everything. Like some of the times it doesn't
well,
require a name.
categories are useful, and it's how we orient
Yes,
ourselves
yes.
and know friend from foe and tool from obstacle and all that stuff. But just for me, um like the metaphor of demons was very helpful to me, because it was more effective for me to think of the emotional problems I had as being, I mean, I didn't think of it as literal. I'm not like going down to Mexico to get an exorcism,
hmm
but it was very helpful to me to imagine that the aspects of my personality that came out at certain times were the result of my kind of, not tending my store, like
hmm
or the teacher leaving the classroom, and the rascals taking over. And for me, like, the moments in my life in which I acted out in a horrible way that came out of nowhere for me, and I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? It was, when I look back on it, it was clearly like a dark aspect of my personality that you could call, that in the past would be called like a demon possession. Like, oh, I was
Yeah.
possessed. At that moment, I was possessed of this certain
Are
spirit
you
of
keen?
darkness.
Are you curious in Asian practices? I think I can get your picture and then I can show her like what she sees.
I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah. Just let me know. I'll try. I'll try. Because
Well, but I just want to like be clear about this with certain people who are listening. It doesn't matter if it's literal or not. It doesn't matter if it's
it has the
scientifically
effect on
true.
you.
There's something about storytelling that's innate to human nature, that the structure of the storytelling, the characters, the archetypes inherent to the stories are there, and they have an impact on people, because there's something about the emotional resonance of a narrative that allows people to anchor in the lesson that they need to learn in a way that resonates way more than if you just explain to them the
Yes.
nuts and bolts of how the
Yes.
body works.
Yes.
For me, I was going down the nuts and bolts and the deconstructive path, trying to hack, into my brain, and and get down to the scientific
Yes.
facts of everything. And they're useful, and I do use them,
Mm-hmm.
but coming up with the appropriate metaphors, and religion has
Yes.
the most distilled
Yes.
metaphors of all time, the narrative of myth and religion, happening upon the right stories and the right emotional, you know,
Triggers
emotional.
to help you to bind to the information, right? Because
That was
that's what I
effective.
thought. Like smart
Yeah.
people before is already solved education. Come on, those are
Yeah.
stories. Like why is school so boring right now? Because old people solved it. Just tie the like if old people like smart people exist, they would just go to the education system and hey, you're stupid.
Yes.
Like
Schools.
you
Yeah.
just tie emotional triggers with the information and make it an interesting story, and it actually spreads. Like the person is happy to teach the next person because it's an interesting story.
Well, where are people getting excited? They're not getting excited in school. They're getting distracted in school. Where are they getting? They're getting excited going in to see the Avengers. They're getting excited when Iron Man does what he does. And they're, dude, I was in a theater when Endgame. I mean, not spoil if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't
Oh
seen
come on,
Infinity
it's years
War.
ago. You're not a true fan if you
It's
haven't seen
over.
it.
It's over.
Sorry.
You blew
You're,
it. I'm going to
yeah,
tell you the end of Infinity War.
yeah, let's go.
When I was in the theater, I was
Let's
surrounded
go.
by people. When everybody started turning to ash and everybody started dying,
Yeah.
everyone around me just started bawling. Everyone just started crying. And I was thinking like, God, people are really having like this enormous emotional reaction to this movie. What is this about?
Ah.
And I think people are absolutely starving for a myth that helps them, put life into context. The problem is you have an entire generation of people, and I'm going to be on a soapbox for a second, but you have an entire generation of people who go in to watch Iron Man and they get excited for those 2 hours, and then they leave and turn back into the piece of shit they were. They don't take the lesson of, no, you have to be Iron Man. You have to go home and take the lesson that what did Iron Man do? Why was he heroic? You take that lesson and you apply it to your life. Oh, I have to be self-sacrificial. I have to, help other people. People don't do that. They go in, they watch the movie, they get emotional, tied up in it, and then they go home and they don't, they
Because
don't use
they
the
view
lesson.
it as pure entertainment
Right. They
other
view it
than
as,
trying to extract. Because I try to break down myself other than what did my sense of justice, or in general why Hong Kong people has a sense of justice. I try to break it down because we were ruled by the British or in a certain age, and then Christian ideas get into our culture. And when
yeah.
and also is I watched Batman and Spider-Man when I was a kid. That's all the idea of justice and righteousness come from me when I
Mhm.
when I break down to it, because Chinese culture doesn't have that. Like to be frank,
Yeah.
so it's interesting. Like the story that actually made me try to be a decent human being. Like starting from a kid is just a TV show on TV, like
Mhm.
which which people find it stupid. I'm like, you're stupid to find it stupid. Because
No, it's powerful. It's really
yes,
powerful. And if it's, I wouldn't like go to church and be like moved the way I was moved watching, The Dark Knight.
it should
And
be. Some people in church should do that.
but in the past, people may have been, in the past,
Yes,
those stories,
yes,
I
yes.
could be wrong, but
Before 3D, before cinema, that's the best play. That's the best play you had back in that time.
what else were you going to do?
That's
You would either,
yeah, that's the best form of entertainment. That's why, yeah,
it's the only form
I I
other
totally
than stoning your neighbor to
I
death.
totally hear you. So that's the Avengers for them. So that's why people were passionate about religion, because that's the end game for them back in the time.
But they're missing out on the lesson, and they're not. And another problem with the whole situation and the power of movies is that it has a power to, you can shift the cultural myths, and then you can have people the tail wagging the dog, and you can go, well, I don't like these ancient myths. I want to rewrite them. I want to create a new myth,
Mm-hmm.
and and that'll change your society, and people will think differently from the new content that they see, because they don't have access to these stories, which every story is the same. I mean, the myths
Yes.
are what they are because they point to a certain mode of being, in my opinion. They point
Yeah.
to a certain mode of being that, over time, the cultures that continued that story
Yes.
outcompeted the cultures that didn't have that story.
Yes.
Because inherent in the story, the hero exudes the qualities that that culture values. And in
I
a
think,
way, the myth is the story of that culture and the values they have. And once you start changing the stories, the culture dissipates.
but
It
it
goes
could
away.
it could be beyond culture because it has to it has to be something right or something
It de-
within our genes to. It's just a hero's journey. Come on, like back,
yeah,
like
no, I
why
mean,
we find it appealing again and again in human culture. So it
the,
must have something like encoded in us to find it interesting again.
there's
Because
parallels in every culture and every in all the worlds, and there's plenty of people who wrote about this more brilliantly than I ever could relay, here. But yeah, it's human nature, and it's the story of how we survived and how we made it this far. It's the story of, the most basic story of all is leaving the confines of your territory, going out into the unknown chaos, confronting some sort of monster that you destroy and you reap some benefits from it. And
and
when
then you
you
lose
bring,
something.
you have to give up something, right? Yeah, you have to sacrifice something in the process. You become wounded in some way, but the cost has a benefit, and the benefit is the treasure or whatever that you bring back to your community. You share it with your community, and then the community thrives or whatever, and then it happens all over again. All the stories are that same story over and over again. At least they're a version of that story. And I was obsessed with movies and obsessed with stories as a kid, and it was like the answer was right there in front of me. And when I started, reconsidering everything in my life, we're tying it back now, we're going full circle. When I started
Beautiful,
completely redrawing my map,
beautiful.
one of the biggest things for me was to go, okay, well, I'm still here. I've decided to actually try to, live, because there was a moment when I had a decision. Do I even want to be here anymore? Is it
Hmm.
even worth it? And I made my decision. I said, well, I'll give it a try. So
It has to
again,
be though. Do you want to hear the spiritual answer? Like if you ask a spiritual healer or a energy person, they all of them say the same thing. So that's why I'm sharing it with you, because you agreed to this experience and you choose it among certain choices. So that's why. So
right.
you have chosen to be Christopher,
Hmm.
yeah, before you're
Right.
born. So
But
that
that's
must
accurate.
have some value to you.
Well, in a way, it's like the beginning of a new life, because you didn't choose to be here to begin with. But when you actually get to that point in your life and you do choose, now it's deliberate, now it's conscious, and now you're responsible for it in a way that you weren't before. There's a saying, I forget what it's from, but it's like,
That's why they say there's only now, because you change your decision, but in somehow you already altered the past. Do you get what I?
no. Well,
No.
I mean, I get you in the sense
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, there is
yeah.
only the present moment. You can't lose what's past, and you can't.
You can change the past from now, as wrong as that sounds.
Oh, like recontextualize it, like change the meaning of it. Yeah, no,
Yes,
that I agree with.
that's one
Absolutely.
of the practices I use that I found out is just taking parts from your past and
Yeah,
let go of it now, because the past is affecting you to a certain.
right.
I could have done something better.
But
There's
that's easier said than done, my friend. You
Yes,
know,
so that's why I
it's
wrote down all the
yeah.
scenarios, and then when I was meditating, I would try to channel back to that emotion and that feeling and
Mhm.
try to let it go now.
Yeah.
Of course, it's very hard to do, and I spent years on it, but
Well, I
that's
don't
how
know.
I did it.
I don't know how you did it, but for me, like writing is the way to let things go. You can't just decide, oh, I'm going to let that go. I mean, maybe some people can, maybe you can, but for me, processing it by writing it down into a
Yes,
story, and
I
there's
want to
actually,
clarify. It's a little bit
yeah,
more than deciding.
yeah,
It's kind of like try to relive it.
yeah.
it it's time travel.
But did you
As
involve writing at all? Did you
write
try
it,
to form
it
it into a narrative at
yes,
all?
write it,
Right,
and then the writing helps you to relive it,
right.
and then by reliving it you're trying to demo that feeling, and then because being now I've granted myself the decision to let it go, so it's
Yeah.
like emotional healing for less of a more professional term.
Same deal, same deal. And for me, the writing, something about the writing turned it from a memory into a story. And now in my brain, it was no longer the visceral reaction to the emotion of that memory. But now my brain, when I reached for that, that wasn't there anymore. There was just a story there. And the story had it embedded in it, the lesson, whatever it was. And sometimes your brain can just keep flagging the same memory over and over again. And you go, I know it happened. You know, why you keep reminding me of this? And it's because there's some information there that you haven't extracted out.
Yes.
There's some lesson you haven't
Yes.
quite
It's
gotten
just
everything out of
reminding
that
you.
memory as you could have. And you have to go back and really pay attention to it. One of the things that happened to me, and I know, you know, anytime you need to go, we've been at it for,
No, it's all
I'm
right. It's
good.
all right. This is fun. This is great.
One of
Awesome.
the things, okay, fantastic. I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
One of the things that I
Yeah.
realized,
Ninja Turtles. Come on.
oh,
Ninja
we're
Turtles fighting
brothers.
dinosaurs all day, man.
As soon as you said Ninja Turtles, I'm like, okay, we're good.
Turtles, dinosaurs, tick tick, right?
We got turtle power. So one of the things that I realized, I would have these flashbacks to these moments where I felt like somebody hurt me, and I felt like somebody betrayed me, or somebody was doing something in some way wronged me, and they would be horrible. You know, throughout my whole life, the depression was kind of a low hum, and sometimes it would be very bad.
Mhm.
But when the catastrophes, and I'll just shortly to describe the catastrophes, I was working, you know, I was working for 14 years trying to make a feature film, finally got a project that I worked on for 3 years, and then it just kind of fell apart suddenly. And I had felt like all I'd been working for friggin' 14 years had fallen apart. Then I got laid off from my job. Then I went broke and couldn't afford my apartment anymore. I had to leave the city I was in. I broke up with my girlfriend, had to move in with my family who were fighting with me. My best friend died. Then, you know, I was just like one after the next after the next. All this horrible shit happened to me all at once. And that, at that point, like as worse as I ever felt in my life, I just fell off a fucking cliff. And it wasn't even like anything I ever felt before. And in those moments, I was having these horrific flashbacks to everything bad that ever happened, you know. And a lot of these memories, this was amazing when I realized this, a lot of these memories I thought were memories of times, and I would relive them immediately. Like it wasn't like, oh, I remember that time. It was like suddenly I'm there
Yes.
again.
Yes.
And it was like a flashback.
Yes.
And
Yes. Exactly.
but
Exactly.
but instead of trying to avoid thinking of them, it's like turning around and confronting the predator. And I looked into the predator's eyes and I said, why are you here? You know, what do you want from me? And so many times it turned out that the memory was trying to tell me people weren't hurting you, you were hurting people. You were hurting the
Yes.
other person, and this is what you were
Yes.
doing wrong. And I'd be like, I would go, yeah, that's right. I was. This isn't a memory of someone hurting me. This is a memory of me feeling self-righteous and hurting someone else because I thought they were hurting me at that time. And it was like, and the most amazing thing happened. These memories would just, they never came back.
You solved it.
They were
You
hitting me
solved it.
all the time. Well,
That's what I
I
call.
turned and faced it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why, because it is certain point, I think the mind is just trying to remind you the most important thing you need to do. Because
Yeah.
it's like a
It's
reminding
trying to
system.
help you.
Yeah. It's trying
It's
to,
like a ghost in
yes,
your
it's
house.
like a ghost. Yeah, in your mind. It's
In your
just like
mind.
the scene in Star Wars when you go into the tree and you see Vader.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
exactly like that.
bro.
That's why Star Wars is great. Because
I'm gonna
people
get
don't
my Darth
understand.
Vader bust off of the shelf. I'm gonna show you my Darth Vader bust.
Check this out. Check this out. Right. Noise jobs. See? My latest
Oh, there you
toy.
go.
Yeah.
Let me give me
Mando.
a second. Let's compare. Hold on.
Oh, really? I just started collecting since I broke up. I'm like, yeah, your Vader. The old school design is so cool. Like you nailed it, man. You nailed it. Like,
Thank you.
because there's a little things they tweaked along the years.
Yeah.
You must realize that, right? If you're capable
Oh
to
yeah, no,
help that.
it was an annoyingly long research to find out where
I
I
see
wanted
that.
to
I see
fall
that.
into it. Yeah.
Because you got that is something about the proportions and stuff like that. They changed along the years.
I changed mine too. I made mine a little bit personal to me that
Yeah, more scary, right? More skull
I
like.
flattened the face a little bit to make it a little more like I don't like the way the nose sticks out enough like a mask.
Yes.
If I wanted to make it perfect, it would come out more. But I made this bust when I was in. So all the busts that I make are kind of, they all have a theme, and the theme is kind of there. It's very complicated, but I'll just talk about this one bust.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever you want to share, man.
Darth Vader bust was, yeah, having a moment in my life where I realized I dodged becoming Darth Vader, and it wasn't like,
That's why it's so good. That's why your stuff is so good. It's personal.
Oh, thank you. It's all personal. I don't talk about how personal it is. It's.
I want to hear. Come on, I want to know. Because why like why you express it better than other people? Because you put yourself into it. Well. We as artists, I think ultimately we're trying to do the same thing. Just sneak ourselves into our work.
Oh yeah, we're smugglers.
Until another sick person or another artist could read it.
Well, I couldn't do it any other way because art is so fucking hard.
Yes.
It's so hard to do it that it's not worth it if it doesn't mean anything to you.
Yes.
Which is why when people say you should sculpt this guy, you should sculpt that guy, I go,
it has no meaning to you.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yes.
And it's how I can spend 220 hours sculpting Bruce Lee and not give a shit if I sell a single one, because I wanted a bust of Bruce Lee, and so I friggin' made one.
You want to make the best one. Oh, Dad, the museum should contact you, man. We need your piece in Hong Kong. The museum.
I would love it. I want them to be everywhere. I would love to send one to his daughter. Actually, I mean, if she thinks
the one in Mandalorian,
enough.
Right? Was it the daughter? Do you know do you watch the show?
I haven't seen the new season of The Mandalorian. I
am
out of the loop.
So Bruce Lee's granddaughter was in it, in one of the fight scenes. Shit. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
That was pretty cool.
Oh, now I have to watch it. Now I gotta get Disney Plus.
It's a good show. Come on, to be fair, they got it right.
I love the original.
They got it right.
I love the first season. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the formula right. None of the new age bullshit. You know.
No, I appreciate it. They went back to form, with the original Star Wars. They were inspired by certain films that came out around that time.
It's just a Western. They got the Western element back.
And Kurosawa, and
Yes.
Kurosawa's samurai movies.
So right.
So it's perfect.
Dave Filoni, man. Dave Filoni. They got everything right.
I'm impressed. Sometimes you get surprised, and I get kind of cynical about the state of movies and TV shows. Sometimes
he's just the ultimate fan, man. That's all he like at the bottom of his heart. That why he communicates to us. It's just like he is the ultimate Star Wars fan, and he's making Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, give him everything, man. Come on.
Yeah. Just give him all the scripts.
Yeah. Seriously.
Well,
and then the guy draws really well. Do you know he's an animator?
No, I didn't know.
Do you know he's an animator? Let me show you really quick.
I'm not surprised, actually.
He draws really well. I think he was in Cartoon Network before he did the the show. This is volume 2. The art of
is that his drawing?
No. I'll show you his drawing. But
I'm not surprised. Yeah, a lot of filmmakers are secret artists.
Yeah, check this out. Like the concepts, he just sketches it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I like that style. Yeah.
So there's less lag in communication as well, because the director himself could sketch at this level.
Well, that's what I thought I could. That was the secret, weapon I had when I started, because I went to film school. I didn't go to sculpture school. I don't have any training as a sculptor, and I wanted to make movies. And I thought that was my secret weapon, was like doing storyboards and drawing concept art. And I love it. I still think that. Well. But films are a lot more complicated to make than just being
if it's fun, do it, man. Look at this one.
Amazing. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so beautiful, man.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah. Like, for me, it's just like sometimes I have stories in my head. I'm just trying to make a pitch sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I try to concept it all out and make boards and stuff like that. Especially like I can't tattoo right now because all the lockdown and stuff like that.
Well, at
That's
some point,
just
I want to talk to you. At some point, I want to talk to you at length about your art and your tattoos and everything when we're not talking about like depression or whatever. But
yeah, sure,
I
sure.
don't
Let's go.
want to go off topic.
Let's go.
But
Let's
yeah,
go.
we need to have another conversation
Yeah, sure, sure, man.
off the air at some point.
Part two or anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course, man.
But um, you're talking about the Mandalorian. I just remember I had a flashback to. I love that theme, the theme song of the Mandalorian, and I used to run
Oh,
to that all the
it's
time.
beautiful, man. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But I just want to say, before I, forget, like, as far as, the specifics of what I did and what helped me, what it turned out, I'm not on antidepressants now. I don't take antidepressants. I haven't
Me
for
too, me
years.
too. I'm totally against it after researching what it actually does. Because a
Well,
little bit personal stuff, because
sure,
my mom's depressed, because genetically I think I got some of it off her. And
sure.
then my other family members are just really strict on meditation on her. Because it really breaks my heart, because it just makes her a different person. Like, to be
Yeah,
not trying to be cruel and stuff like that. Just changed your personality and
I
stuff like that.
understand.
So, but they, because the 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 other family members that are forcing that on her are not depressed,
Yeah,
and
they don't know.
I'm the guy who solved it, and my advice doesn't mean anything. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I need to swallow, like, right now.
Well, everybody, you can explain to people, but they have their own journeys to go on, and they have to,
Yeah,
it's you
yeah, they
familiar
have
with
their own tasks. They
you
have their own
familiar with
dragon to slay.
right.
That
But
kind of
it's like,
stuff.
I mean, have you read Plato, The Cave, the allegory of the cave? So the allegory of the cave it's an allegory about people growing up in an environment where they're put in this cave and they look at shadows projected on the wall, and so their entire world is two-dimensional. They never see another person. Their eyes are fixed toward this, so they just see a shadow play of two dimensions. And there's all these circumstances that limit their perception of the world. And then one day one of them escapes and goes out into the world and sees colors for the first time, sees his reflection in a pool, notices the three-dimensionality of the world, and then
Mm-hmm.
he runs back to the cave and he tries to explain to everybody what the world is like out there.
Oh,
And they're like,
everybody's gonna be like, "You're
what the
crazy."
hell are you talking about? So that's kind of like the metaphor for, there is no way to ever fully explain to somebody else how to be enlightened.
Yes.
And it's something that it's your own journey, and you do it or you don't do it, but sorry to hear about your mom, and it does run in the family. I mean, I can see it in
Yes.
my, one of the things that helped me, and it was hard, but it helped me, was that I moved in with my family and I saw how my mother interacted with my grandmother, and I saw that my shit goes back generations. It's not just me.
I got that
It's
moment as well.
and
I
that was
thought it was just me.
well, that was terrifying to me, because I was like, okay, this isn't going to solve itself. I need to fix this. I need to do something, because this is just going to continue on forever.
Yeah, because you especially you got the role model in front of you that didn't solve it.
I hate to say it, but I mean, when I moved to New York City, all right, I didn't scream at anyone and no one screamed at me for 14 years. And then I moved back to my hometown, and like I got screamed at so many times within the first month of being there. I was like, I've forgotten what it was like, And
This
then
feeling.
I'm screaming, I'm raising my voice so that
Yes.
I'm not just, to be heard,
Yes.
I have to raise my, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is like, this is going to explode, this whole situation. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes things need to get even worse for you to solve them. Sometimes they're not bad enough.
Yes.
And,
For you to
and
do, for you to take action, right? Sometimes they just need to be better, more bad.
right,
If
which
that
is,
if that makes
makes me
sense.
afraid for humanity, because I think a lot of humanity is like that, and people need their backs against a wall before they can do anything. And there's a lot of
Yes.
problems that we could solve now that we don't, because we're waiting for the moment where where there's no doubt whatsoever that it is a problem and you can't
Yeah.
argue anymore.
Some
Like,
people needs to be black and white.
I think some people aren't going to believe in the fact that the atmosphere is warming every year. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're going to believe in it until the actual sky is on fire. And even
Mm-hmm.
then, I think they're still going to go, no, it's not.
It's not on the news. Come on, the
Yeah.
news didn't report it, so it must be fake.
We saw what happened with, COVID. It's like half the population of the US just thought it was a conspiracy and didn't even think it was real.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought, I was always waiting for the aliens to land and people to come together and put their differences aside And now I know that when the aliens land, half the population of the world will just be like, they're not aliens. That's a hologram, and you're just trying to trick
Actually,
me.
there are aliens. If if people people don't believe it, they could be right in front of you, and then they could tell you they're aliens, and you could choose to not believe.
Right. And that would be the best way to invade too, you know.
I think certain dimensions you have not much value for them, other than you're a
Yeah,
expression
we're
of
a
the
waste of time.
universe. Like I think about that kind of stuff. Like, what's your value to an alien with different
Depends
perspective?
on the
And
alien.
I think most of the time is just expansion, because living out yourself, like being the most Christopher of all the Christophers, being the most Dino out of all the Dino, you're helping the universe to express themselves, and then
Right.
therefore
Yeah.
the um universe is expanding, and then the universe wants to experience himself. Like, I'm experiencing you right now, and you're
Right.
experiencing me right now, and we're expressing ourselves. So that's value to aliens, if that doesn't sound too woo-woo to
So
you.
you're expecting the aliens to be enlightened and to live and let live and to have positive intentions and to, you know, not be any kind of threat.
They must be, if they
Yeah.
exist. Like, think about it. If the aliens have
Oh, you
bad
mean
intention,
if they made it to our solar system, it would only be because they overcame all those, you know,
yes.
human
If not,
flaws or
they'll
whatever.
already
Yeah.
be dead because
Yeah.
they
Yeah. I
fought
agree.
themselves to death, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
For sure.
they could only have like semi-positive intentions. Because
Yeah.
if they have bad intentions, they would have killed themselves already.
Yeah.
They wouldn't
Yeah.
reach us. Does that make sense?
I'm more of in the school of H.P. Lovecraft that thinks if you know the aliens are so beyond our comprehension that we wouldn't even be able to perceive what was going on. It wouldn't be bad intentions or
That's
good
actually
intentions.
true to
It
a
would
certain
just be
extent.
like
Like,
looking into a funhouse mirror, and you wouldn't ever notice.
no, you actually die.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
you lose your mind. Your
no,
brains would
you
come out
just
of your ears.
explode
Yeah,
because the frequency is
yeah,
different. Like, yeah, I'm just sharing, all right.
yeah,
Take it
sure.
with a grain of salt, because there's a certain frequency limit to this body we have, and then being at a higher dimension means living in a different frequency. Because sometimes, again, going to Asian stuff, because that's why, because when people could sense ghosts and stuff like that, they have headaches, and there's
Hmm.
actually physical pain.
Hmm.
Because in a scientific way, I'm trying to put everything in science as well, a very logical person in nature.
Hmm.
And because you're experiencing a different frequency, like imagine you only, like this body is only capable of FM, AM radio.
Sure.
And then aliens or ghosts are operating in very strong 5G Wi-Fi. So it's out of your receptive system, and then he's
Right.
shocking your system. That's why you get physical pain. Like that, that's how I explain to myself
I
that.
don't mind the metaphors at all because I mean the metaphors are a tool or the stories or whatever the myth. You know, we're talking
Yeah,
about ghosts or demons or whatever.
yeah,
They're a tool, and if they help you
yeah,
contextualize your situation better, yeah,
yeah.
just use them. I
But
don't
one of
mind
the reasons why you can't see a high dimensional alien is that the frequency is so high you just explode.
it.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's what I think.
We're not even gonna know. Everybody's just gonna start exploding one day, and they're gonna be
No,
like, "What's
it's
going
not
on?"
like depends how much are you into yoga and stuff like that. Because the yogi, they say when you're enlightened, you leave the body, right?
Yeah.
Have you
See, now I like this. Now I like this as a movie. Now for me, if this is becoming a movie and the
yeah, make
aliens
it
land and everyone starts exploding
exploding.
except for the yogis. And
But
everyone's like, "What's
but
happening?
that's the
Why are
thing.
they?"
If you want to be realistic, because they say that the moment you're enlightened, you will leave your body, because your body
Hmm.
frequency is different already. Because your soul frequency is already elevated to another level.
Tell me what you think about this, because I feel like, metaphorically speaking, that's how I felt when I reached a point of when I did the mindfulness meditation enough to separate from my thoughts, and I no longer identified with
See,
my thoughts and
great.
thought, oh, I am that thought. The thought now was a thing outside of myself that I observed, and then I go, huh,
Yes, you reached
and
the level already. Yes, yes.
I
You're close to
meditated.
enlightenment. Come on. Yeah.
Well, I don't even really
Oh,
meditate all that much anymore because it's something that I kind of just jump into all the time. And it's from this system I have in the active meditation I do through my Excel spreadsheet, my dimensions of the
You
things I
solved it by
keep
your
track
own
of.
way. You solved it by a certain extent, because
Yeah. But yeah, it is in a way that's a perfect metaphor, being outside your body. I never connected those two things, but that's 100%
yeah,
right.
that's why these kind of things are interesting to me, because the body we see right now, me and you, is not the whole human being. Like some
Yeah.
people, like science people won't accept that. But in the meditation or yogi culture, like your whole person is included with the part we can't see. It's the energy within you, your soul, and then all that stuff, which means you are a complete human being. When you are addressing to only the physical self or the mind,
Mm.
you're ignoring that part. So whereas even in my healing in depression and stuff like that, I need to address that part, because depression is so deep, is rooted within your soul, because you need to address yourself as a whole human being. What I
Mm.
mean as a whole human being is in also involve that spiritual or other
Mhm.
self or higher self, uh, which
I think
is
a lot of people don't know what that means, though. They think they know what it means, and when you say you have to be whole, they go, "Yeah, that does make sense," or "that sounds right," but they don't ever get specific enough about what that actually means. For me, it was literally breaking
it
myself
takes
into like
experience. It takes
20
experience,
20
definitely.
different aspects. And
Yes.
then I had to go, okay, well, am I a good person? Well, what is a good person? And I would
Yes.
create like a chart.
Yes.
Good person is broken up into, you know,
Yeah. Doing
a
this
good,
action or
good,
maybe this belief.
am I a good man? Am I a good citizen? Am I a good artist? Am I a good
Yes.
cook? Am I a good this? What does it take to be a good cook? You have to know this, you have to know this. What does it take to be a good artist? This. And when you start breaking it down, and it makes sense why people it's so hard to change, is that it's freaking hard.
Yes, it
It,
is.
it,
It's
it,
your
it's
identity. It's
not
your
simple.
ego that you build up the person you're playing. And there's a real self. Because
Well,
what I'm hearing now is you're starting to realize there's a real you behind this physical self.
right.
So you're starting to see the whole picture. Because the metaphor is like you're just playing a very, very good VR that you
Mhm.
forgot you're the person that playing. And then by doing mindfulness practices or meditation, is like you start to root back to that person that's playing the game. So that's why you could that's why I could explain to you, because you already reached a certain level that you realize that there's another you playing the game other
Mm.
than the physical self. Because in if you're trying to explain this to like science people, they're like, ah, this bullshit, man.
Well,
What is this?
they should love it because it's very effective. And if
Depends
they're
how much ego and money they invest into that thought. Because even though they're wrong, if they're so invested, they will hate you because you're telling the truth.
well, that's a huge thing, and I've been through that, because you realize if I'm wrong about who I am, then you have to confront the emotional impact of going, I've wasted all this time. You eventually get over that and you recontextualize it. You say, no, I didn't waste it. It couldn't have happened any other way, because
Yes.
I was working with the tools and the circumstances I had at the time, and I was doing the best I can. But people people get used to telling themselves stories over and over again, and then they think that they are the story, and they don't realize that they're looking at like a reflection
Yes.
in a reflection in a reflection.
Yes.
And when you actually break down what it takes, to know who you really are, it's extremely complicated and costly.
Yes.
It's costly in time, it's costly in energy, it's upsetting. When I was going through all these horrible catastrophes, and it's like, it's not a war. And I always would keep in mind, don't get me wrong, like, being a sensitive person means things cost me more emotionally than they cost other people. So
Yes,
I
definitely.
would keep that in mind, that what I'm going through right now is an inappropriate level of grief. And I'm aware of that. And this is part of the mindfulness thing. So I have no illusions that whatever, like I'm Jesus on the cross and like I'm the worst victim or whatever. But it's something I still had to deal with. So I still had to confront it for what it was and look at it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I lost my train of
No, no, no.
thought.
I'll just say I'll just share what I think, because
Yeah.
It's like your hardware is more sensitive. But
Yes. Yes.
by by being able to slowly detach yourself, you should slowly feel better, because you
Mhm.
realize I it's not real to a certain extent. I know it sounds cruel or
It's
something
like
like that, but
like a dream. Yeah.
yes, but the dream you dream, the hardware you got from this life is just more sensitive. Like it functions different. And
Well,
then
the hardware is going to define the limitations, and you're gonna, and if but if, as long as you understand what you're working with, then you can
yes,
work with it.
yes,
You
because
know
you
what you're
slowly
capable of.
realize that there is a spiritual self running this hardware.
Mhm.
So you slowly, I think, that's what I did. I slowly numbed the hardware.
Mhm.
So yeah, because I told myself I did it. I don't know if it works for you, because it's not real for a certain extent. It's just a
Mhm.
physical form. The spiritual self, if I decide not to run, it's like a game you put in the system.
Well, I think of it as software, and I think you can't run
Yes,
Mac software on a PC
yes.
or a PC on a
Oh
Mac
yeah, of course.
unless you can, install an emulator, and then you can do
Yeah,
it. But that's more costly,
you
and the
need
things
the
about
time and
yourself.
experience to build the emulator for
Right.
yourself.
You can only do that with experience and with wisdom. And the things I couldn't change about myself were pretty much the hardware things. And you can, and
Yes,
here's a little secret. You can change the things you can't change, but in a way, you have to die. Like the things you can't change are the things you can't change, you can change. But for me, it's like the more painful it is, the more you're destroying what is fundamentally you and becoming fundamentally someone else. So, sure, I could change things that I think I can't change at an extreme cost, but do I want to pay that cost? Because I'm going to end up somebody else. And, does that make sense? Like
it makes sense.
if you
Totally
see it
makes
as a
sense to me.
continuum,
Come on, give it to
you have
me.
a continuum, and
Yes,
you have the things about yourself you can't change, and you have the things about yourself that are easily changed, and then there's a narrow band in the center that can be changed, but there's a cost to it, and you
but
have to just
why are you changing though? Why you would like to change it though?
because you're not getting the outcomes you want, because you're depressed all the time, because you're miserable, because life isn't turning out the way you want it to, because you're lonely, because you feel terrible, because you have nightmares, because you can't sleep, because you have dietary distress, because things are horrible, and you don't want to live if this is what living means. And so you change the things that will allow you to get to where you want to be, because you recognize that there's a potential for something better, and you
Mm-hmm.
orient yourself toward that potential. That was something that, and the closer you get to the part of the continuum where things can't change, the higher the cost. And once you trip over that line, that's when you start to die. And sometimes you have to die, like when you go through
Yes,
a breakup,
it makes total sense to me. You
or
need to.
you get a horrible illness. It's painful because you're fucking dying.
It's like trashing that map you did, because you're
And it's
emotionally
painful. Yeah.
invested, because you
I
invested
think there's
time.
actually I think there's actually something physical really happening, and you actually literally are dying. And
Yes, yes,
there's a pain
yes.
to it.
I
And the
could
part of
relate.
your brain that led you down that cul-de-sac, the part of your brain, the part of
Yeah,
your thinking that sent you off a
generates
cliff.
pain to signal something to you.
No, no,
Yes,
no. That it hurts because that part of your brain is dying off, and you're replacing it with something that's gonna, you know, orient you towards a
something
better
new.
future. And so that's how I would think about these things, and I would need these kinds of metaphors that would help me kind of understand what I was going through. And I don't know if they're whatever scientifically accurate. I don't know if my brain was doing anything, but that that helped me. So, you know,
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. That's a great story.
cool.
For the end of the day, at least you got a great story, and then you're the main character in this story,
Well,
right?
that's what worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but we're
Yes.
creative and we're artists, and I think that casting ourselves in our own hero's journey is a great alternative to unconsciously just being a side character in someone else's hero's journey. Like if you don't consciously make an effort to go, okay, here's the adventure I'm going on.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the dragon I want to defeat.
Yes.
Here's the treasure I want to, whatever, and here's the hero I want to become.
Yes.
If you don't, treating it like a game, not being silly about it,
Yeah.
not going around telling everyone that you're fighting dragons and being a weirdo,
Well, to the
but just in
correct
your own
people,
mind,
to
in
the
your own
correct
mind,
people is fine.
among friends,
Yes.
who like Ninja
It's
Turtles and
it.
dinosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like your mind reminding you that past situation. It's like it's just reminding you that's the dragon. That's the dragon. You need to slay the dragon now, which
and
forces
that,
you
and
to
that
confront it.
and it puts you in the right mindset too, because if you don't accept the fact that it's something that could eat you, you don't approach it with the right
Cautiousness,
amount of energy. Well, the right cautious, the right enthusiasm, the right
the right level.
uh,
You need
right.
to know
So
how strong the dragon actually is, and then now you're strong enough to confront it, and then
and you
your
have to
mind
accept the
remind you.
fact, that sometimes dragons fucking eat people, and you
Yeah,
might lose. You might get eaten.
but it's fine.
So
You wake up the other day, like it's like it's like
you
your
can live to
mindset
fight
now,
another day.
which is
Yeah.
beautiful. Like you wake up again, you got another life, you got another chance.
And you try again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the world's not on fire yet.
Not
So
yet.
yeah,
She's.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll
So you
see.
get another go at it. So yeah, in that context, it actually works for me.
It helps it turn into. It's funny you asked me if I ever treated it as a game, and I said no. And the more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that's exactly what I do.
Therapist
That's
here.
exactly
Hi,
what I do.
hi. My number here. Call me.
Because I constantly refer to the metaphor to go, okay, where am I? Like I was trying to work on a film, and my sculpture business took off, and I had to put the film on the side because this is where the money was coming in, and I have to eat.
Is there a way you're sculpting the characters in your movie? Have you thought
Well,
about that?
let me hold that on the side for a second. But the metaphor for me, the movie was a dragon I was trying to slay. And for me, right now, where I am in my hero's journey in slaying that, people are gonna get on my case so much about this metaphor, and they call me
Nah,
out
it's
to be
fine.
a
Like that,
big
it
nerd.
doesn't matter. Like like
But
what's
I,
that saying? If they mind, they don't matter. If they matter, they don't mind.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
you
write that
could
down.
just with this you could just roll people out of your life. Because in a certain extent, you need to do this for your own sanity. That's
All
what
right.
I did.
Well, fuck them then.
Yeah, fuck them. Yeah,
But in the metaphor of the movie being the dragon, it's like I'm retreated from battle from now, but I haven't given up the battle. I know it's still out there. I still plan to kill it. It's just I'm off to the side on a side adventure, a side quest right now,
because
and I'm
maybe
just
you
now getting
acquire
back to
something
it.
with the side quest that could help you slay the dragon. Because you fought it, because you fought it already,
Yeah.
and then you know its abilities and what it would do to a certain extent. You know enough that now, okay, I'll just leave you there for a little bit while I go
Right.
on this side quest to acquire a special sword that could kill you.
Right. Well, that's exactly what I did. And I had another business. It took off.
Wow,
It helped me move across the country to a place where I can better concentrate on editing my movie. It increased my resources and finances. I have stability now. I'm not,
beautiful.
so that's perfect. Yeah. It was a little side quest, and I still have to fight it, because it's my income. But I'm starting to transition now from devoting. It takes a lot of mental energy
I think
to
you don't need
sculpt.
to think of it. I just think of it as you don't need to think about it as transitioning. At least that idea may not be that beneficial to you. Like at the end of the day, we're just artists, right? Because I have this identity issue as well. Because like, am I doing tattoos? Like, oh, it's not going too well. Like, do I do painting and stuff like that? But at the end of the day, is nobody cares if your art communicate, your art delivers. People doesn't care about.
Be the first of your kind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You're the
I feel
sculptor,
conflicted.
sculpting movie maker.
It's
You're
weird, but all right,
Christopher. Come
I'll
on.
go with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
was
that's it.
that was a big hang up for me though. I was like, am I a sculptor or am I a filmmaker? I don't know
I
what
had
I
that
am.
stage. I had that stage as well.
And it's just that, well, I'm just an artist. I'm an artist, and I like sculpting, and I like making films
Yeah.
sometimes.
So
So
fuck you.
yeah, go fuck
See?
yourself.
Go fuck yourself. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Like people. Yeah, I had the same
And I
issue.
might
Like
still do tattoos someday too. I'm
sure,
still
sure.
in my
Tattooing,
wheelhouse. Yeah.
sculpting, movie maker. Come on.
Yeah.
That's great.
Why not?
You got your machines? You have your machines?
I have it in a file, all the research. I was really close to doing it, and then
Yeah.
I went viral because somebody shared one of my sculptures, and then
Oh,
that
it was of the comedian, right? Is it
Joe
that one?
Rogan, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Joe Rogan, yeah.
And you know what's funny? He just shared something else tonight, which was why I was so stressed out when we started this call, because he just
That's
shared
great.
something,
Why are you stressed? That's
and
awesome.
I was stressed out because my inbox started blowing up, and I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know
It's-
what I'm going to do because I made something that I wasn't planning on releasing, and I only
Yeah,
posted a picture of it to get someone else's attention. But
yeah.
then Joe Rogan found out about it, and he posted it, and now everyone's fucking sending me messages.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
I'm not complaining, but it's
Yeah.
stress. Stress is stress, and yeah,
But
it's
stress
sometimes stress.
comes with a prize, man. Comes with a prize.
Dino, can I just briefly go over a
Yeah,
list of
sure.
things that have helped me that I just want to put in people's minds
Yeah, sure,
for
sure.
if they have depression, what they might want to pay attention to?
Yeah,
I'm going to say this real quick.
yeah.
Um, well, I'll just focus on specifically what the main thing was.
Yeah, how
Uh,
about like the original stuff? Like, do you have free like practical things like people could do? Like
Three practical things,
maybe,
absolutely.
maybe
Yeah.
talking to a mirror that count as one and stuff like that.
The mindfulness meditation is 100% the most important.
Mm-hmm.
For me,
How
when
do you
you
do it though? What's the Christopher way?
mindfulness meditation is pretty straightforward. You sit in a position, with your legs crossed, you close your eyes. And you mentioned earlier before sometime about the bubble. Sometimes meditation can be dangerous. And for years I tried it and I couldn't do it because these fucking demons and ghosts would come out of nowhere and attack me. And I'd be like, I can't do this. But I wasn't ready yet. And there was a certain point where I had enough information that convinced me it's worth a try and it can't get any worse.
Yeah.
So can't be any worse than this. So I started the meditation, and the mindfulness is you just focus on your breath. And in focusing on the breath, you realize that it's impossible to focus on your breath. And you start to learn that your brain is completely out of your control. It wants to jump to this thought, it wants to jump to this memory. You start putting together your grocery list, you start getting angry at your brother. All these memories pop up, and then you go, and you go, oh, I'm not thinking of my breath. And you return to thinking of the breath and
Mm-hmm.
focusing on the breath. And in the return to focusing on the breath, what you're essentially doing is it's like a bicep curl for your brain. Every time you return to the breath, you're training yourself to know how to focus on what you want to focus on.
That's
And
beautiful.
the more you do it, the more you realize, man, this is so hard. I can't believe, I ever thought I could do it. Just, I can't believe I ever thought I had any control whatsoever over my mind. And in time, what happened with me is I started to realize that all these thoughts, all these memories, all these things that would pop into my brain and then just take me over. If I got angry, I would just become the anger, and then I wasn't me anymore. I was the anger.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now the anger is a thing. It's an object that's separate from me, and I observe it and I go, huh,
You could ignore
like
it.
I said,
Yeah, I don't
and, I, and,
entertain
it,
you. You
and it
you
just goes on. And then something else comes up, and now it's not anger. Now it's something else. And you go, oh, you almost tricked me. You almost, it's like somebody taking over your car and jumping in and taking the
yeah.
wheel. So the mindfulness was absolutely essential to me because it allowed me to know at all times what was going on at any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, you're kind of lost, because you can't even, if you don't know where you are, you can't say where you're going. And you have to understand the starting point. And that just helped with that. So there's that.
It's like help you to
That's one thing.
secure the driving seat in your car, right? Realize
And
that you are the driver in your car.
it
Uh,
keeps you in the it keeps you in the driver's seat.
Other than the monkey trying to take over, like you see the monkey like
And there's
go
there's a lot,
away.
there's not just one monkey too. There's like 20 monkeys.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
some
was,
gorillas and stuff like that.
well, another helpful metaphor I had was thinking this, I'm really going to out myself as the world's biggest fucking nerd, but I
Come
think of
on.
I think of my brain as like a starship, and
That's great.
I am not a person. I am not one person. I mean, I am. The I am speaking to you now is, my intent always is to keep the captain speaking. The captain is always making the decisions. The captain is always in
It's like
charge.
Inside Out. Come on, it's not that nerdy. Just
That's
inside
true.
out.
Yeah, it's very well. It's inside out's just a metaphor for all the inner archetypes people have and the modes of being, and different emotions. And so, like, you have a whole crew, and each crew has a special. Each member of the crew has a specialty. And when you get angry and when you want to attack people, that's like the security officer has had a mutiny and is like
Yeah,
locked the captain up in the brig, and now the security officer just wants to fire the phasers at everyone.
yeah,
You have to have the captain in charge at all times. And you can let the security officer, you can let Worf, if this is Star Trek Next Generation,
yeah, yeah.
I'll never get a
You need
date
to be
after this
smart.
podcast.
You need to
I'll
be
never
smart.
get a date again after this
I don't think so.
podcast.
Some Star Trek chicks are hot, man. Come
I
on.
need to go to a convention. Yeah.
Yeah, you get all the Star Trek chicks. Come on.
They're out there. I've met a few.
Yeah.
Um,
See.
but you have each different, part of your personality, the sub personalities that have a specialty, and they have a use, but they're only allowed to give you their opinion. They're not allowed to make decisions unless it is a war, and then you need Worf to take over and be a badass. But the captain really has to be making the last call. So for me, having
It
this
has the
metaphor is
power
very
to
useful.
allow war to take over when the situation requires it.
And that's what they call integration. You're not denying the dark parts of your personality. You're not hiding them away and denying their existence. You're integrating them into your crew. You're integrating them into your resources. You admit that you have the capacity to cause trouble, and
Yes.
you accept it, and you say, I'll let you know when you're needed. Because
Yes.
if you deny it and you push it away, and this is what happened to me, I didn't want to confront the fact that I was capable of hurting people. So I just pretended it wasn't there, and it would just
Yeah.
come out. It would just
Yeah.
come out, disintegrate it. And then I wouldn't take responsibility for it because I
Yeah.
never acknowledged it being there at all.
Yeah. It's like
So
taking control and then having responsibility of letting that one out. Because I think that this is why people like
you
the
have
Hulk
to,
so much.
yeah,
That's why
man.
the Hulk resonate with people.
I wanted to get a tattoo of the Hulk for the longest time, because especially with misophonia, because it's like a button. You just make me angry and I go away. I'm not
Yeah.
me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I disappear into the tiniest recesses of my mind, and this fucking monster comes out. And as soon as the sound stops and I can get out of the room, it's over. But
Which Hulk
that's
though? That's the question. Which one?
definitely the green one.
No, the art style wise, like comic book style, movie style.
Oh, I never actually read the Hulk comic enough to know the artists that are behind it, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Who's the best?
I don't know. That's your question.
You tell me. Well, I don't know. I like the Hulk from the Avengers. I think of the movies. I like the
All
Hulk
right,
from
the movie
from
one.
the first
Because
Avengers.
it's weird. They cast the Asian one. The new
They
Hulk is
can't.
Korean
No
somehow.
kidding.
They want to please the Korean demographic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Apparently. All right. That's great, man. That's the first tip. Like mindfulness
Yeah, for
meditation.
sure. That was huge for me.
Taking control of yourself. Realize that you don't need to entertain your emotions. Your emotions are not you at the moment.
Yeah, being aware of the things that are happening in your brain, and not identifying with them immediately, and then having to react to them,
Yeah,
letting
that's so
them
valuable to people. Yes.
letting them be what they are, and letting them pass, because something else is coming 5 minutes later anyway.
Yes. All right. Do
So
we have a second one?
a huge thing for me, so I'm off antidepressants. My journey with that was, so the second thing would be diet and exercise. And I know a lot of, when people told me this before I realized how important it was, I would go, it's not that simple. I have a chemical imbalance. You don't know how I feel. Stop telling me to work out, whatever. When I took SSRIs, I didn't feel like exercising. I didn't want to exercise. It was a nightmare. I don't know. So one of the things I was going through with my series of catastrophes was I forced myself to get off antidepressants, and I had a serotonin crash. So I was going through serotonin withdrawal or whatever it was. My emotions were completely a wreck. And
What caused you to cut it though? Like, what is there a voice in your head or something like that?
I stopped it because man, it's been so long since I was in such a bad way that sometimes I struggle to even remember what it was like. Like
That's what I
I've been
mean.
regulated for so long.
Yes,
It's
I
almost
could.
hard to, I'll try to remember, but it's almost
That's
hard to
what I
remember.
mean by you could change the past by being now, being present. That's what I meant before.
Well, that nightmare I lived is now, going home, losing everything, having to completely change my
Because you're a
entire
different
plan for the
person now.
future. That period of my life that was a nightmare for me at the time, I now look on with like the most gratitude and fond memories of thank God that happened. You know,
Yes,
I
yes,
wish it happened 10 years earlier.
yes,
So at the hardest times in my life, the hardest moments in my life, when you extract the lesson out of it, they ended up becoming the best moments of your life.
yes, always.
Um, so that was huge. But I got off the drugs partly because, well, let's be honest, I had side effects from them. I couldn't have sex. When I was on them for like 2 years, I just felt nothing. I felt I didn't tell
Because
the
they make you
person I was
numb, right?
with.
Are you a different person on
You
while you're on it? Can you tell?
other than the sexual side effects?
Yeah, are you a different person, like personality wise? Can you recall? It's fine if you can't.
I want to answer this. I want to answer this
All right,
truthfully.
all right.
Um, well, I was a different person then generally because I've changed since then. But was I a
Yeah.
different person? No, I wasn't a different person, but I didn't know who I was. It was like everything, like a veil got put. Like depression can be like a veil that was like a fog, but
Yes.
antidepressants can also be a fog.
Yes.
And I remember having blow ups at certain times where I was like, I could usually see them coming when I wasn't on antidepressants. I was like, I know I'm about to blow up. But when I was on antidepressants, I couldn't see it coming and it would just happen. And I'm not
Oh.
supposed to get angry because I'm on antidepressants. I'm not supposed to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
It would come out of nowhere. And then I'd wake up and my face would be covered in blood because I'd be punching myself and
Oh.
my knuckles would be scarred over.
Yes.
Uh, that's how bad,
So
so,
it doesn't help anyways. So better off cut it. Better off cut it off anyway.
what doesn't help.
The antidepressant doesn't help that
Yeah.
much.
It was making me, I really don't know why I stopped. I think I might have stopped because I felt like, here's why I stopped. I know the answer.
Because you wanted to help yourself, like deep inside. That's what I thought.
Well, I stopped taking it. The sexual side effects were annoying me.
All right.
And it
Yeah, of
didn't matter
course.
anyway. I
Of
was
course.
single at that point. So it
All
didn't
right.
matter anyway.
Oh, all right.
But when I would stop taking them, I started to know how I felt. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to address how I feel if I don't know how I feel. So I was more acutely aware of what was going
It's
on.
more like delaying the problem other than going to the
It's
direction
a
that's
band-aid.
solving it, right?
Well, if you're depressed and you're suicidal, being on antidepressants is better than being dead. So
That's
if you need to
I
take
couldn't say it better. I couldn't say it
if
better
you need
myself.
antidepressants, take them,
Yeah.
because if what are you going to do? You're just going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people just die.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
felt strong enough to cut them off and face whatever I was going to face because I thought there was something to be gained from doing it. I was sick of feeling numb all the time in my emotions and sexually. The sexual part didn't matter at that point because I was alone anyway. But once I got off them, I started to be more acutely aware of how I felt. And I also got off them because I discovered this was what led into the diet and exercise thing. I'll try to
Mhm.
wrap this up quick.
Great. Awesome.
The diet and exercise thing happened because I just had a thought. I'm like, is there anything I can eat that will help my antidepressants work better? And so when I searched that, it sent me down a rabbit hole about hormones and neurotransmitters and the building blocks
Is it
that
the bacteria
biologically,
in the bowel?
that has a lot to do with it. That's another 3-hour podcast, is the gut
We're
biome.
going deep here. No shallow conversations here. We're anti quick fix.
I'm doing my best to be succinct though, and then we can drill down if we need
It's
to.
awesome. It's awesome.
I discovered that there were foods that would influence your antidepressants and make them work better or work more poorly. And that made me think, well, am I even eating anything that I need, that my body would need to make those happy neurotransmitters and those happy hormones anyway? Do I even have the building blocks to begin with?
Yes.
And I discovered that no, I'm not eating anything. I'm fucking malnourished. I'm not eating anything that I need. I didn't get the blood tests. So it was part of my plan for years, and I finally did it. I dropped like thousands of dollars on blood tests this year.
You,
And
you should know me sooner. I'll just tell you, just eat something healthy. Eat some
well,
eggs, eat some
after all
apples.
these years of changing my diet, I wanted to see, am I actually having an effect? And it turns out I am having an effect, and all my levels are optimal. In fact, I'm kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of a superhero. Anyway.
Wow. All right.
So,
Everyone wants to know now. What's the
I,
superfood? Come on.
well,
Do it.
everybody's different. That's the problem, is you have to
Yeah.
find out. I got a genetic test. So that sent me down a rabbit hole of, okay, maybe if I find the right foods, I don't even need to take antidepressants. That was the germ of the idea. I started looking at my diet. I started taking an inventory of the food that I ate, and I started incorporating that into my chart. And I started to notice every time that I would eat something that would cause me dietary distress, it would cause me sleep. Not having sleep would lead to mood swings, and you're off to the races. So I started noticing all these connections, altering my diet. And then I have a very strict diet now. I eat like the same 8 things, and I'm happy with it. It's fine. I'm a little sick of cooking. I spend like 25% of my days cooking.
Same.
Which is annoying.
Me too. But
it's
to a certain
better
extent,
than
now I just have raw eggs most of the time because I'm
raw
lazy.
eggs.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I'm lazy. And
I'm lazy, but not that lazy. I boil them and I'll just eat them like a reptile. I'll just I'll just pop a completely
all right.
unseasoned.
Well,
hard-boiled
if
egg
you're
in my mouth.
feeling extra lazy, you could try.
Yeah.
Because it's in the mind. Because at a certain point of my life, I'm really into lifting. Is the time where I
Yeah.
was in Australia and stuff. Because I do, and I take all the advices, man. Because the shake I do in the morning, which
Yeah.
is delicious, and you need to forget it. It's raw eggs. It's just raw eggs and banana. Raw
Oh, that
eggs,
sounds.
banana. You put
I
it
could
in a
dig that.
blender.
Yeah.
It tastes amazing. It's like a milkshake.
Why do they got to be raw though? Why are you gonna do the raw?
Because you could do the research on it. Because apparently egg yolks are better when they're raw. Because when you
okay.
cooked it, you destroy something. No scientists here, but
Yeah, no, we're scientists.
all right. Yeah,
Just for tonight. Okay, no, if you say so. And that was something I looked up too, is like, I need this type of food. How is
yeah,
it better? Is it more bioavailable if I cook
yeah.
it longer, less
And
long? So
a little bit on my side. Sorry, but
yeah,
me,
no.
I go all in, man. I go all in. I do like raw cow liver.
Oh, you're the liver king.
Raw cow. No, I want to be. I want to be going there. Like just liver king's gonna be like this though. It feels like $1 million, man. Like try it cooked. Try cooked first.
I didn't grow up eating organs. It's very hard for me to eat
Me
organs.
too. Just
I
swallow it.
tried to have sweetbreads.
I
Yeah.
have those pills.
Well, maybe I could blend it. Does the liver blend?
Yes, and forget
Okay,
it
I
is
could.
liver. That's my
Okay,
suggestion.
I could try to blend it. I'll make a liver smoothie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's better than
Well,
coffee. It's better than coffee. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's like natural coffee.
Well, that's phenomenal. Organs are the most nutritious, and they've been on my list for years. And
This is your calling, man. This is your calling to try.
I just don't do it.
Go. I'll just call you the next day. Hey, how's that liver going?
When I was shooting my movie down in Brazil, I ate a lot of chicken hearts down there. I ate a lot of hearts, and that was satisfying. But
see,
even
like older cultures, like Asia culture, they always eat organs. We always eat organs because it's in our culture. We know it's nutritious.
That's why Americans are all freaking malnourished. I mean, besides just
that's
eating a lot
why,
of fast
because
food.
you're not eating organs.
Are the best. They're phenomenal. They're
All right,
phenomenal.
but are there organs in your list though? So
they're on my list, but I don't.
All right, what's the 8 things that you could share that it's working for you as a guideline for people?
My body is like 25% chicken eggs, 20% cruciferous vegetables. So
broccoli and stuff.
Broccoli,
kale.
I don't eat kale too much lately, but
it's not that sprouts. Good. I used to have it raw, but
it's not very bioavailable too. It's good for fiber, and I take a lot of supplements.
You're a doctor, man. You're a doctor.
Well, I take a lot of magnesium supplements too, so I don't really need kale all that much, but there's other things in it. But that was the other thing too. I went through the building blocks of everything that I needed, make sure I had all my vitamins dialed in. I used to never have any vitamins. I get nauseous when I eat zinc,
Hmm.
so I stopped eating vitamins years ago
Hmm.
because I was taking a multivitamin. It made me
Hmm.
nauseous, and I just thought vitamins made me nauseous. I just never.
Just to throw something more out
It was
there,
just
since
zinc
since
though.
since we're all curious and we're all doctors, because apparently animal vitamin is different than plant-based.
It depends. Yeah. The company you buy it from, you have to do the research because also sometimes they process it in a facility that
That's
where
why
it becomes oxidized.
that's why
And
cow liver is so good, because it's
there's
animal.
cow liver pills, aren't there? There's like
Yes,
pills of cow. Yeah.
because
It's
they're
better to eat the real thing though.
yes, because it's animal vitamin. It's not plant-based, so we don't need to convert it to animal vitamin ourselves. So it just kicks
Right.
in that much better. Like,
Right.
yeah, it could sound funny to you, but like the cow liver kicks in minutes. You could just feel it. It's better than coffee. I'm not even joking.
I
Like you,
can't
you,
explain it, but you're totally right. I mean, I couldn't explain it, but yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I eat chicken, eggs, cruciferous vegetables. I eat a lot of rice.
Oh, rice. Okay.
Almond milk, proteins. I'm titrating up back to consuming whey protein again. It
Yeah.
it messes with my guts,
It's just
um,
my
but
opinion from Dr. Lee
I just need more
is
protein.
it's just eggs are better. It's just less
I'm worried about
marketing and less
cholesterol.
company are behind eggs. So eggs is
That's
superior
true.
from a yeah, from a
Well, I
semi
already
on
bought like $500 worth of whey protein, so I have to. When I get through my whey protein, I'll
sell it
go
on
back.
eBay.
Sell it.
Sell it on eBay.
Well, I did get it at a discount, so
Make a sculpture out of it. How's
I'll
that
make a
sound?
sculpture of I'll make a sculpture of
Is
Arnold
it
Schwarzenegger.
sculptable? Is whey protein sculptable? Aren't you curious, Chris?
I don't know, but
Is it sculptable?
I often think of putting strange substances in my sculptures. And
See?
when I had COVID, I was going to make a bust of the COVID doctor that I sculpted. I was going to make a bust of him and cough into the
That's
cough
great.
into the gypsum
That's
as
some
it's set,
awesome,
like the
man.
guy who put the blood in his sneakers. The guy
It's
who
like the
put.
Kiss comic. You know the Kiss comic? The band Kiss, they actually put their blood into the comic ink.
Oh, of course they did.
Yeah. And
I
it's
should know
like that,
that. I
man.
should know that. I'm a heavy metal guy, so but I'm
Yeah.
like
Oh, shame on you, man.
heavy metal from the 90s and 80s. So
That's the best. That's the best
I
stuff.
don't I love Kiss. I love the aesthetics of Kiss and their costumes and everything. And they have obviously they turn
The
out to be
older I get, the more I appreciate the design.
yeah,
Because the
yeah.
makeup is just timeless.
They are the most iconic
No
visually.
one can replicate
Yeah.
because they don't even age. They're like superheroes. They
Right.
did it.
Yeah.
Because the makeup
Yeah.
won't age. Like you
Yeah.
put on the bed, say
When they
makeup, you
take it off, they don't look
yeah.
yeah, when they take it off, they got problems. But
That's it. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. They're playing a certain character. Do they need to look good
I need to
after they
go to a
take?
Kiss concert before they I don't know if they I don't know if they, maybe they're retired already. Maybe they're dead. I don't
I
even know.
think
But
they're wealthy enough to reach hundreds.
yeah. You know who Henry Rollins is?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. I got to send you a story of a spoken word performance of a guy, Henry Rollins, I like. He was in the Black Flag. He
I know
tells a
back
story.
fact. I know back fact.
Well, he was the lead singer for Black Flag for years, and he tells a story when he does spoken word about going to a Kiss concert. That's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in my life. Just about the experience of being at a Kiss concert with all the Kiss fans. Anyway,
Diet, yes.
really quick. So the diet. So figuring out what the things I put in my body and how they affect my mood. But yeah, eggs, protein,
Yeah,
cruciferous vegetables.
figure out
I
what
don't
works
drink
for you.
soda. I'm supposed to not drink alcohol, but since COVID started, I'm like a freaking alcoholic.
That's good, man.
I
Whatever
haven't
works
had a
for you,
drink.
man.
Well, I haven't had a drink in like 2 weeks. So today's actually 2 weeks, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get off it because that affects my mood. So it's part of
Yeah,
the
if it excess you.
thing.
Yeah.
So I can cheat. I can have things that I know I shouldn't have that is going to affect my mood. But because I know I shouldn't have them, I'm mindful of what's going to happen. And when my thoughts start to get dark after the fact, I don't take them seriously. I don't go, oh, well,
Like a game. Like a
everything's
game.
changed. You're right. It is all hopeless. I just ignore it. I go, oh, you're here again on your way.
Yeah. It's like the
So
captain captain addressing that
The
crew
captain
member. Yeah,
recognizes
yeah, that guy
yeah.
lost it again. So yeah,
No,
go to your room.
he's a stowaway. He's not even supposed to be on the ship. Get the fuck, they put him in
Yeah,
a pod and they send him off the ship.
yeah,
That's what I do in the
like the
morning when I have
alien
my coffee.
turn into
But that,
ice. Turn into
exactly.
ice. Ah, you need to sculpt Jar Jar. Are you gonna sculpt Jar Jar?
No.
Make a Jar Jar Binks, man. No, make your version of Jar Jar Binks.
No, I have no interest in Jar Jar. I feel sorry for the guy who
Oh,
played him. I
oh,
feel
that's
sorry for
sad.
the guy who played him. He didn't deserve all that hate.
No,
No, Jar Jar is let somebody
I
else
love
do that.
him. I love him. That's great. All right.
I'm no comment.
I love him
But
for interesting reasons. Let's put it that way. All right.
you can tell me about that later. The other half of that equation though is the diet and exercise. And for exercise, so okay, again, I'm a scientist, I'm a doctor, like we discussed. I went down the list of all the neurotransmitters and all the hormones and the effect that they have and the purpose of them as far as science can tell me. And my understanding of it is that, serotonin has a certain purpose, dopamine has a certain purpose, oxytocin has a certain purpose, testosterone has a certain purpose, neurotransmitters and hormones and all that. And something that I think the reason that I don't need SSRIs is that I get my serotonin from exercise. Exercise allows me to take on a challenge that I do not want to take on. And when I triumph over it, I assess myself as being capable. And what serotonin
With
does, as far
confidence as
as
well.
in my understanding of the function of serotonin tracks your perception of your own status. So it tracks, are you safe? And where do you fall in the,
How
where
good
do you
are we today?
Right. Like where do we stand? How much self-respect do we have? And when you overcome something like a 5-mile run or an intense lifting routine, I mean, there's probably so many things. There's other things going on, like the kynurenine pathway. There's kynurenine is a thing that when it ends up in your brain, it becomes neurotoxic. But if you exercise, it goes into your muscles. So you divert it from your brain to your muscles. And so you can
Wow.
just like hack your brain that way by working out. So there's all these kinds of benefits that exercise confers upon you that I have written down in a list that I wrote like 6 years ago that I don't even look at anymore because I just know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
When I work out, if I don't work out for a while, I start to notice patterns of thinking that go away instantaneously when I hit the gym.
Same.
So,
Same.
and then you have the added benefit of being in shape and living longer,
Yeah.
whatever. So
It's easier because fighting depression is hard enough. Why not make it easier by having a semi-healthier body? That's what I
right.
thought.
Well, it's the difference between it's a difference between fleeing the pain and leaning into it and heading toward the pain, like turning and facing the predator.
Yeah.
You adopt a point of view where you're engaging with the problem.
Yes.
And before SSRI, any
Yeah.
depressants
Just
are, if you
dodging
don't
or
need them, if you need
delaying.
them, take them. And that was it. I was on them for years and I was delaying the catastrophe that happened when I got off them. And I needed that catastrophe to happen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
To
if
get
you
the
need
power to
them,
actually face the predator.
right. So I was running and running and running, and finally I turned and faced it. And in facing it, I changed my mode and how I saw, life basically.
Beautiful. So
So there's that. And then you want a third one?
yeah, if we have
I
one.
I just want to tell the audience I don't have fleas. I keep scratching myself because my loofah was I had to throw it out and I had to switch to bar soap, and I live in the desert and my skin is dry.
All right.
So
It's
I feel
super
like
humid here.
I feel like Toshiro Mifune in Seven Samurai when he keeps scratching himself all the time.
Yeah.
And when I did that other podcast with Jason Seiler or
Yeah.
Seiler,
Yeah.
I noticed afterward that I was scratching myself a lot too.
I think it's one of those things that only you will
God.
notice. Only you, the person, would notice. But
Well,
now you said it loud, people will
everyone's
notice.
gonna notice. No, they'll notice. It's subconscious. Even if they didn't notice it, their brain did.
All right.
But when I went to film school, one of the things I heard in one class was they said, "Don't ever get caught scratching yourself on film. It makes you look dirty."
Really?
They say all kinds of things in film school. But the third thing
Yeah.
was and I could tell you 10 things, but the third thing was circadian rhythms. This was life-changing.
Sunlight, right?
Well, just understanding that I had a pattern
Well,
that was
understanding circadian rhythm.
very reliable. In the mornings, I had a certain pattern. In the afternoons, I had a certain pattern. At night, I had a certain pattern. And it got to be to the point where, oh, the clock struck this hour. I can disregard every thought for this next hour because I know it's just going to be dark. It's just going to be cynical. Everything's going to look like shit. And it's like that kind of creep comes around. And
Yeah, he's
once
just visiting in this hour every day, and
he'll
you're
be
used
gone.
to it.
Yeah. So that was huge for me because I used writing as therapy for a while, but I didn't understand that I was just biding my time for a lot of that. And I would have horrible dark thoughts in the middle of the night, and I would write until the sun rose to try to get rid of them and work my way around them. All I needed to do was really just wait. And I would have looked at the world in a totally different place. But sometimes you do need to write. But yeah,
It's the way you did for passing time to wait for the guy to go away, the bad
right. But
thoughts to go
it
away.
wasn't a waste of time. It definitely was useful for certain,
Yeah, it
certain,
worked for you. It certainly is useful. Yes.
but a big part of it was also just waiting out the clock.
Hmm.
And now I
And
know,
realizing that it will pass without panicking at the moment, right?
well, it made me feel better while the time was passing. It made me, feel like I was doing something. But if people could understand, if people could notice that they had a pattern, and
Hmm.
and they would, it ties in with the mindfulness thing where you go, yeah, but this seems true, and maybe the world is hopeless all of a sudden, and it wasn't like it looked an hour ago.
Yeah.
Maybe that is true, or maybe it's just this exact thing, this exact thought I have that I have all the time, every day for the last 20 years. It's probably that, and it'll be gone in an hour. But yeah, man, that's like, uh, I don't know, man. We went all over the map. We had a great conversation. I'm not going away, but I'm mindful of your time. And
No, it's all right. It's all right. This is fun. This is beneficial to me as well. Yeah, I want you to know that.
well,
I'm
I'm trying to be as detailed as I can.
no, really. This is huge value to me as well to know a fellow person that connects so well, and we're able to communicate. Like,
Well, I'm glad, dude. I want to thank you for inviting me on the show and ask. I think it's a fantastic thing what you're doing, and I love the idea of creative people talking
because
about
people are not like, it
this.
bugs me to a certain point that I want to do this myself. It's like people are too shallow because, like, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
because like what you started off as, it's a complicated issue. It requires time, effort, and it's not simple at all. It's not a quick fix. Like,
yeah,
how can you communicate all kinds of these kind of things? Like, at least offer a little bit of guidance in 5 minutes. How can you do it? Like, people just are just gonna talk about, hey, let's talk about depression. Like I don't name anything, but other things people doing. Like, talk about depressions. We're gonna talk 5 minutes about it, and then it's solved. Like,
right.
it,
You have to set up a whole podcast just to get people over the.
even to stretch the
Yeah,
surface, man.
yeah.
Because no one is having this conversation that is actually semi beneficial to people.
Or
Like,
they go in the opposite direction and they adopt a victim mindset where they lean into being beleaguered by this condition that they do absolutely nothing about, and they just take pictures of
yeah,
themselves and whine on social media.
that's
It's like,
important as
well,
well.
what
Like,
are you doing about it?
the message
Yeah.
of this show is we could always do something about it. Maybe you
Oh,
think you can't now, when if you're listening now, you think you can't now, but it's not true. It's just that thing in your mind. That's why mindfulness is helpful, is that you realize that your actions actually could affect the outcome. You need to
and it can
realize that, right?
and it can be fun. It can be
It's a
like a game.
game. It's a
It
game.
could be
I
a chit.
won't. I
Have you
convinced you. It's a game.
have you read The Martian? Have you read the book The Martian?
The movie?
They made a
Um,
movie of it. The movie's good.
only the movie though.
Okay, well, the movie's good, but the book was very influential for me because it was like a guy constantly on the verge of death, And the movie is sort of like that, but the book hammers it home a little more, where there's problem after problem after problem after problem. And for me, it was beautiful because
It
it put me in a
resonates with you.
it put me in a mindset where I was like, okay, here's my problem, how to work the problem. There's going to be a solution. What do I need to do?
Yeah,
And that
let's get
book was
going.
very inspirational for me because it put me in a problem solving mindset.
It's
And
a
that's
pretty
what life
manly
is.
thing to do, I think as well, because it's what our nature is just problem solving, right? So it's beautiful that we could realize that okay, emotions I could put it aside or I could ignore it for a while, and let's actually do something that actually helps solving the problem.
I don't
That's
know. Some people love just having the problem. Some people, I don't know.
yeah. I
They
always
like
say
the.
it's
I don't like
addictive.
attention. Like this is. I'm coming kind of going out on a limb, being on podcasts.
Yeah,
I prefer to be alone. I prefer to be left
me
alone.
too. Me too.
I put my art
People
out there. Here's
people
what I
are
want you to
just
see. Right.
annoying, like I'll say it. I'll say it. All right, I'll say it. No worries. People are just annoying because
That was what it said on my Tinder profile when I still had a Tinder profile. I said,
yeah,
I'm not an introvert. I just don't like most people.
that's
Most
true.
people just annoy me.
That's not what I said. Like what cares doesn't matter. What matter doesn't care.
That's right, man. So
Yeah.
it's so hard when you're in the depths of the depression to treat it like a game. It sounds like the most absurd thing anyone could possibly tell you. And you're like, you're not taking this problem seriously.
Yeah, people will
It's,
lash
it,
off to me. I don't care. I don't give a fuck about you if you think like
it's
that.
it's a game. It's a game the way, like, hunting a lion is a game. Like
Yes.
the lion
It's
could
a
turn around
it's a
and kill
game
you.
of life and death.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't take away, it's a game. Like people play dangerous games anyways, like the
Yeah.
Russian roulette or something like that. It's still
Yeah.
a game, but you'll
Yeah.
die. Like I think
Well, there's all kinds of games.
the
Yeah.
word game has toned down along the years, I think.
Well,
Because
that's why
back in
it's
the
used.
days it's
Specific.
it's more risky, but it's kind of make it more fun back in the day.
Yeah, it's like the word sport. There's ping pong, and then there's Thai kickboxing.
Yeah.
They're
And
both
there's
sports.
UFC.
And there's UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both sports. They're all
Yeah.
sports, but they're not exactly the same.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. All right. So do you have a emotional goal that you're working towards now or a target?
An emotional goal.
For me, for to set an example, for me it's like I want to change my mood just like this. Cause so I'll
Yeah.
actually design certain physical anchor points for myself, like
Oh,
something
interesting. Okay, yeah.
physical I could do. So I'm just training myself like a dog, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
if I
Habits.
if I identify myself feeling bad or I identify the bad thoughts are coming in, I just train myself to be happy with a click of a thumb or some gestures like that, or maybe just doing a happier gesture, which actually helps a lot. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
do this, you don't care. I already feel better, like stuff like that. Do you have certain goals like that?
Well, that's an excellent goal, and it never occurred to me to anchor the intention behind some sort of physical movement and a sound or something, which
I
is
learned it
perfect.
from NLP.
No, yeah, I've heard.
Have you heard NLP? Do you
Oh,
know where
yeah,
I learned NLP from?
I know exactly where you learned it. You probably learned it around 2005, 2006.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
From
and
from
yeah,
picking up chicks.
right, right, right. Well, that was a phase we all went through.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of useful lessons in that at that time in my life,
Yes.
actually,
Yes.
reading into a lot of those things. And what it is it's just, people who don't quite understand what's going on, trying to figure out a different way of looking at the world and trying to, you know, well, to me, a pickup was always people trying to emulate the kind of men they actually should have tried to be. They were trying to emulate what it might be. They were trying to give women they wanted to
Fake it.
sleep.
It's the ultimate fake it till you make it to a certain
Right, but
extent, but it's deeper than that because that's why
the
I like the
danger is
word.
faking it forever, though. The danger is faking it forever and just being hung up on trying to imitate the guy that the girl wants to sleep with.
So what's
And
better
not
is
actually.
actually becoming the guy, but becoming the guy is too hard. You can't market it. So that's why they marketed it on fake it till you make it because
Well,
it's quicker, it's easier to sell.
it's a fairy tale too. It's like what young 20-year-old guy doesn't want to think that if you just follow this procedure, you can
Yeah,
like
buy
have
this
any woman
book,
you want.
you get
Yeah.
laid. Yeah.
I actually found out about this because I worked with a guy who lived in that house with Neil Strauss and Mystery and all them. And yeah,
Wow.
and he told me about it because he's like, I just had this crazy experience. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I lived in this house in California.
Yeah.
Actually, a guy wrote a book about it. It's coming out
Yeah.
soon. I'm like, oh, you gotta tell me when that book comes out.
Yeah.
He
Well,
actually
that
lived in it. Yeah. It's crazy though,
wow.
man.
Well,
But I think
that's crazy. We're connected in so many ways.
oh yeah,
That's
dude,
insane.
well, I might be on the spectrum, and a lot of those guys were kind of on the spectrum, and they just didn't understand social dynamics, and they had to kind of go in the back door, no pun intended, and just kind of learn
Yeah,
how
that's how
to
they learn it. That's how men
do it.
learn to be social or social skills. Like I would give credit to pickup. Like 99% of my social skills, even now, like chatting with you, I learned it from pickup.
It's like a manual override. You had to like cognitively learn what other people just kind of naturally
Yes,
absorbed in their
because the
environment.
society doesn't teach you, and as men, we are less sensitive to it. Because I
I don't.
think
Something in our nature. Yeah, I think that. Well, women just pick up on it sooner. I mean,
yes,
females just maybe it's because they have to because they're in more danger earlier. They're targets earlier, and guys
yeah.
are less vulnerable,
Or
and
our
they can
resources
be
is more on like solving that problem, like killing that saber-toothed tiger, other than like talking to this other human being.
so yeah, more
More
immediate, more
on the
direct.
task and
Right.
problem solving.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, for me, I only know myself, and I know that a lot of the things that people seem to just kind of pick up naturally and incorporate into their social intelligence, I had to, and depression is like this too, where the things that come naturally to everyone,
Yeah,
you have you
same.
have to you have to think
Learn it
really hard and
yourself.
work really hard to get to that same point. It's like they all have Tesla autopilot, and you're
Yes,
fucking with a manual car the whole time.
yes,
You have to
yes.
really
But you could
focus and
fucking
really
drift after
concentrate.
you know it. Yeah.
Right. So I'm drifting these days.
I'm drifting. I'm drifting, man. Cause,
I
cause,
I have a little bit of autopilot, but most of it's
yeah,
still, you
that's
know.
cool. That makes you cool. Like a girl would pick a drifting guy all of the time. Come on.
Well, I'm self-made man, so this
Yeah.
shit. This shit.
Self-made driver,
Yeah,
doctor, psychiatrist, artist. Come on.
I make this shit look easy, but it's not easy.
Yeah, yeah. As we've discussed. So is there a emotional goal, or we could just leave it at that if nothing
Well,
comes to mind now?
nothing's. I probably have it written down in the other room, and when I leave, let me check my notes one last time.
It's fine. It's fine.
Um,
It's kind of like going back to that ideal self, but now you have more knowledge. You
that's a
could
good. Yeah,
you could
that's a great.
realize it as a goal rather than a thing you force yourself to live up to.
I'm glad you said that. That's a perfect way to close the circuit. Now my ideal self isn't this thing that tortures me,
It's
and
just a guide.
it's a star I navigate my ship by. And I go, okay, well, this is the direction I'm going. And if I don't get there, I'll get halfway there. And halfway there is better than
It's
just
way better than now, like not moving.
closing my eyes and just steering wherever the universe takes me, which is kind of like all I had before. It was like, well, this is the life I want to have, and I kind of don't know how to get there. So
Mhm,
I'm just kind of fumble around and just hope I get lucky.
mhm.
And now I don't, I say nowadays, I don't have dreams anymore. My dreams died. I have plans, and I carry out my plans. So, if I get halfway to my dream body in the gym, that's better than the body I have now. If I get
Yeah,
halfway to $1 million, in my whatever
yeah,
investments,
yes,
such that they are at this point in the
yeah,
stock market, with
yeah,
everything going to shit,
yeah.
then I'm halfway.
I don't dare to look now. I didn't
I
open it.
haven't I haven't looked
Yeah,
in. I
yeah.
don't even want to bring it up. I shouldn't have even brought it up. I broke my own rule. Yeah, I
Shame on
break my
you.
own rules all the time. I'm like
You're like an
Leonardo.
artist. You're like an artist.
Prefer to think of myself as like Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception, where I have all these rules, but I just break them all the time. As long as I know them, though.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
come
no.
on,
So
rules
my
are just
my
guidelines at best.
that's right. The recommendations.
Yeah.
But my goals always were to identify my triggers and neutralize them. And Whereas I used to be living a life where I was beleaguered by, I think my triggers are like 12 or 13 different ones. They're pretty reliable. They're pretty consistent.
Hmm.
Um, and I have gotten to the point now where it wasn't a physical anchor like you were doing, but I had a different kind of process where not only have I neutralized the majority of them, some of them now positively make me laugh. And something that
I could relate. I could
used to
relate.
set me off,
When they
I'll
come
just,
now, I just laugh. It's
I'll
you
just go,
again. Aren't you
yeah.
bored of this? We're gonna do this dance again. Yeah, I can relate.
I never could have imagined that that was even possible, but it is. Yeah.
A little bit
I'm
funny
glad to
thing
hear that.
because when I go on walks nowadays, because now
Yeah.
you have a mask on, but before I don't. Like I just grin. I just grin while I was walking because like people look at me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I identified those bad thoughts coming in. Or, it's you again. I know exactly how to deal with you. I sit here, have a seat, have some peanuts or something. Yeah. Or how long you're staying? Or 2 hours? Oh, 2 hours
Yeah.
fine. 2 hours good for you. I can do 2.5. And then I just grinning on while I was walking. Yeah,
But
totally relate.
it's a real grin, you know.
Yeah,
It's for coming
it's
coming from an authentic
genuinely happy.
place.
Yes, yes. It's your
Yeah.
treat. Like I would like to think that's the reward I get for beating depression. That's at least what
Yeah.
I get out of it. Some
And
kind of.
everyone thinks you have a secret too, and you do have a secret.
I do have a secret. I'm a doctor. I'm a psychiatrist.
And a psychologist and a
And an
scientist
artist.
and an
Come on.
artist.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's great. That's good enough.
Can
So
I add one more thing just to
yeah, sure,
finish it
sure,
off? I would regret it if I didn't say this. Um,
sure.
so I pursued happiness most of my life. I pursued things that would make me feel better. I wanted to be with somebody, a girl who would make me happy. I wanted to eat foods that would give me pleasure. I wanted to go places that looked beautiful because they would make me feel better. They would dull my pain. And a lot of the dead ends I went down were because I was looking for something to relieve my pain. It's an analgesic, a drug, literally sometimes, it's an SSRI. And what ended up happening was when everything that I valued was taken away from me, everything I thought I valued was taken away from me, I had nothing left but to ask myself, well, what is meaningful to me? What actually would be worthwhile even if everything went to shit? If you say, well, I want to seek happiness, stuff is going to happen because life is like this. It's chaotic and tragic. Stuff is going to happen where it's impossible to be happy. You cannot be happy when certain things happen. They're too horrible. But you can still be living a meaningful life. You can still be living in a place where what you're doing is worthwhile and it justifies all the horrible things that happen. And that's what motivates my art. I make pieces of art that if I never sell a single one, it was worth it for me to make it, and I have no
Yeah.
regrets about making it.
That's a true artist, man. Cause
Well,
but it's just like more stuff for you to create on. It's like more material for you to make art out of. That all
and
that.
you feel good about it when you do it, and you have no regrets, and you don't feel like a sellout, and
Yeah. And you have
yeah,
more material to work with. It just
and
makes
it's
your next
you,
art piece better.
and
If
you understand yourself better too, because if it is
through
authentic
the
and
it's
and
like
it
a
is
healing
you,
process for yourself on creating that.
the healing power of art, another 3-hour podcast.
Another new series
Yeah.
from two really good doctors and psychiatrists,
That's
obviously.
right. And scientists. I'm actually an epidemiologist too, and a marine biologist. But but so
That is scared of fish. That is scared of fish.
well, I'm
Okay.
scared. Well, the fish I'm scared of, they were sea reptiles and they're extinct, so I'll be fine.
Extinct. Are you sure? Are you sure?
That's true. We don't know. They could be down there.
Are you sure?
But let me say that. So I I just have to just get this one little thing out.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I looked for
More value, the
happiness.
better. I might as well call this the value
Well,
podcast or something.
if I have a
Pure
motto,
value.
yeah. Well, I'm trying. I'm trying.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Don't try. Don't
If,
try. Just do.
if thank
Just
you,
do.
Yoda.
Don't try.
So if I have a motto, it's pretty much that I pursued happiness. I pursued happiness and it made me miserable. And when I learned to pursue meaning, that's when I found happiness. And I'm a happy person
Chase after
because
meaning, not happiness, right?
right,
Happiness is the byproduct of meaning.
exactly. And that's what ended up, you know, I didn't seek it out and it just happened on its own. I looked like I was trying to brand there by putting my
No, don't do it, man. Do it. I don't know how much
that-
views, but
that's not even
man,
my name anymore, but that's fine. But it's Freakshopgallery, not Free Shop. But yeah, so like when you pursue things that actually mean something to you and are like worthwhile to you and you know have significance beyond giving you
mm-hmm,
pleasure
mm-hmm.
or being some sort of a
I think
satisfactory
George Lucas had a talk on this. You can look
really
it up on YouTube. Like he's like giving a speech in a school or something like that, and then he talks about chase chase what fulfillness, not happiness, something like that.
yeah,
It's a great talk. I highly recommend it. It's just 5 minutes by
yeah,
George Lucas, and then
I'll
uh
check that out.
yeah, and then reflecting on your point, the thing now is like more of a identity mind trick I do on myself. Because if in order for you to pursue happiness, you need to accept the fact that identify yourself as unhappy, right? I
Mhm.
need to admit I'm lack of that thing in order to pursue that thing, right? So
Yeah,
nowadays I'm like, I'm happy already. I
yeah,
am joy. So therefore I don't need to seek joy because me, myself in my natural state is happiness. So there's no lack. That's yeah, yeah. La. Yeah, that's what I try to do with my mind nowadays. I am
that's
happiness.
that's
as
fantastic.
as stupid as that sound, like people like my ex-girlfriend always make fun of me because I'll actually talk to myself like I am yeah, I don't mind. Like even when she's here, I'm like, I am happiness.
Hey man,
I
you're in good company. I've been talking to myself all week preparing for this. I've been trying to get out all the stupid things I might say out, you know,
not
before
there are
the
no
camera
stupid
starts
things, man.
rolling.
To the people that matters, there are no stupid things.
You underestimate me.
All right, maybe off after we record, you can try.
I'll, I'll I'll write down some stupid things for the next time for the
Come on,
sequel.
come on. I
If I'm
doubt that I
invited
can't
back.
find value in it. All right, challenge me.
When you're huge and you're as big as Joe Rogan, you got to have me back, and then I'll say a lot of stupid
When
things.
you're huge, come on. You're on Joe Rogan now. All right.
Well, I appreciate
Advice.
it, man. It was fantastic talking to you, and I'm glad we
No,
met. And you know, I feel like I have a friend now, and I'm gonna friggin' visit you in
likewise,
Hong Kong
likewise,
next.
man. Ninja Turtles, dinosaurs, come on.
I've been meaning to make a trip to Hong Kong for forever, and it's a little
Yeah, come
complicated right
trash.
now.
Come. I have a empty bedroom. My sister
Oh,
went to
amazing.
Italy. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a chance to take it back. I'll send you a text before I get on the plane, and
I
we'll
was
talk
just like,
again.
no, no.
I'll get an Airbnb just in case.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so on the other one, next one is what advice would you give to yourself while you're in your darkest times? If you could time travel,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Um, God, I think I mentioned it earlier and I forgot it now. You know what?
It
Honest,
will pass or something along those lines. Is it
you
that
know what I
one?
do to be perfectly honest with you? If I knew who I was, let's say in back in those days, if I
Mm-hmm.
knew this person standing before me was me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at me from the future,
Mm-hmm.
if I knew that my younger self knew that, I
Yeah.
think I would just stand and just grin.
Just wait, right?
I would just
It
grin. I
too
wouldn't
shall
even say anything.
pass.
I would be
Oh,
like,
that's unique. That's beautiful.
I'd be like,
So with the
bro,
knowledge,
I'd be like, bro, there's nothing I can tell you. You're just gonna have to deal with this.
yeah,
I really couldn't be.
that's
This is the
beautiful. So
well,
you
this
just
is
time travel, like imagine that you just time travel to your younger self, and then you
yeah.
identify yourself as your future self, and then you just grin at your
I would
younger
just
self.
grin.
That's
He
beautiful.
he would beg me. He would beg me
Please
for
tell
information,
me.
and I
And
would
then
just
you
stare
just
at him.
grin like you know all the secrets in the world.
And then I would disappear into the crowd like Hannibal Lecter. I just wouldn't even say anything.
Do that movie. Do that movie. I think there's
Oh,
a new show on Netflix
I want to do
by
a bust to Hannibal Lecter sometime, but I want to do 100 busts. I'll never get them all done.
I understand. Just depends on which
Because
one
there
you
is a
want.
little bit of a serial killer in me, you know. But you know,
In everyone. Come on. You're
Oh yeah,
artist, serial killer, doctor,
yeah.
psychiatrist.
I
I think there's a serial killer in every doctor. Come on.
Oh,
I think
yo, you know what? Honestly, another 3-hour podcast. I think that doctors and people who do stuff like that, I think they're what happens when you like raise a serial killer well. It ends up being a person who has the stomach to cut people open, but has no
yes.
interest in hurting them.
And I
But
just realized
but
on
I couldn't cut
reflecting,
someone open. I couldn't cut someone open.
yeah. So you can't be a doctor, huh?
Maybe I haven't tried. I should just try it.
Can you tattoo people, even though they
That I
feel
could do.
pain?
That I
All
could
right,
do. Yeah, I
all
could
right.
definitely do
Because
that.
because what I think
I
of.
can hurt people. I can hurt people if I have consent.
All right, all right. After
Yeah,
they write the paper, right?
that's no problem.
Sign here so I can
Yeah,
hurt you.
these days I'm gonna need it written down. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Put on the internet. What was I? Because reflect
But yeah,
on.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
say anything. I wouldn't say anything. I would just smile at myself.
No, I mean, doctors are like when I now I think about it, it's the most fucked up job on the planet Earth. Doctors,
It's
they are making money out of people being sick. Like let's put it that way. What are
Yeah,
doctors? Doctors are people or a profession that benefits while people get sick or die.
yeah.
How
But the
fucked up
trick,
is that?
well, it is from a certain point of view. But doctors also get sick, and they need
Yeah,
doctors to take care of them. It's
yeah,
like when people say, "Well, they don't cure cancer because they make too much money." Yeah, but the people who are making the money get cancer too and die of it.
yeah. That's true. That's what they get for being a doctor. Come on.
They don't say that I'm a doctor, as we've
I'm a
just.
doctor as well. I'm a doctor as well. Come on. Let me find my badge.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee. All right. So I think I've covered everything we need to have included in the podcast. If you want, we can still roll off and talk about
No,
other
I think this is.
stuff.
I think this is a great time to stop. I mean, the podcast anyway. I'll be happy to keep talking to you, but
Yeah, all right. So we'll
let's.
just
This is a good
yeah,
conclusion
yeah,
here. Yeah,
yeah,
I
too
think we
much
had a great
value.
show.
There's such thing as too much value, people.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So just to recap the three things that people could do, like just if you just watch the last few minutes on the podcast, like what would you do if you're depressed? Just guidelines and stuff like that. So number one is the mindfulness practice, which works because you notice that you're in control, and then some of the times they're just emotions. You don't need to identify them or entertain them while you realize that you're actually the pilot of the ship.
Yeah, I would say it's actually better for understanding where you're not in control.
Mm-hmm.
And you stop taking so much responsibility for having to react to every thought.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just be an outside observer of those thoughts, and they call it
Mm-hmm.
detaching from the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like being cold, but what it is it allows you just kind of get off the ride for a second.
Yes. Yes. It's like
And
that
the more
infinite roller coaster ride, but
right.
you just realize that there's a button that you could press that you could stop it, and then you
And
could leave the ride.
and it is hard. It's really
It's
hard, and
hard. It's hard.
yeah,
The
but that's
concept is simple, but it's hard to do. It's hard to execute. But yeah,
it makes
number
sense.
one.
It would be hard though, because that would be the obstacle and people wouldn't do it, and so they would need it. The things you need the most are the things you're least willing to do.
That's it. Gold right there. So number two is diet and exercise. So in general, just find out what works for you. And most of all, I think eggs could do no harm. I'll say it. Dr. Lee will say it. Eggs could do more harm especially for carpal tunnel. Do you know? Like vitamin B actually
No kidding.
helps heal. Yes, I've tried it because I've suffered a little bit because I think I have the first stages of it, and then I just help myself by eating more eggs, protein, and then more exercise.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because I've been having actually hand cramps lately. I've been at sculpting for hours. And
More
my hand,
eggs,
it's never
more
happened
eggs,
before.
raw eggs, Christopher. More eggs,
All right.
raw,
Well,
more eggs.
okay.
It actually
Okay.
rhymes. All right, and then workout. Is there a certain workout routine or just normal weightlifting, walking?
Cardio and lifting,
Yeah,
cardio and resistance exercise. Cardio, if you can do it, and if you're overweight, you can do as much as you can. It's not
yeah.
about being Rocky. It's about pushing yourself past the point where you feel like you're gonna stop.
Mm-hmm.
David Goggins is. David
Heck
Goggins
yeah.
talks a lot about
Heck
how
yeah.
he thinks most people
Heck
only
yeah.
go about 40% of what they're capable of. And
Yeah.
when you get to the point where your body says stop,
Yeah.
that's when the workout begins.
Yeah.
Everything up to that point. So that's the pain barrier. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you are. You could be a walk could hurt. Then
Yeah.
do the walk. And if
Walk
you're
walk until it hurts and then walk some more.
right, not don't do damage to yourself, but
Yeah.
walk until discomfort.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
Goggins level, of course.
no, don't
Look
don't
at
do
that guy's
ultra-marathons.
hand from doing like pull-ups.
Thousands of pull-ups. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
David
that's
Goggins.
scary.
He's the man.
Yeah, I love him. And then number 3 is understanding the circadian rhythm or
Yeah,
the
that was
flow of the time of the bad emotions kicks in, and then identifying that it actually will pass.
right. Yeah. So that's another aspect of this. Notice where you're in control and where you don't have control. And one of the things you don't have control is of your rhythms and your patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can change them, but it'll take time. But to change them, you have to know what they are. So
Yes.
it ties in with the mindfulness. Pay attention to your and writing
Understand
that.
yourself more.
Understand yourself more. Know where your starting point is, because you can't go anywhere if you don't know where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you track your patterns, and writing them down is very helpful. It might take you a couple of weeks to notice the patterns, but everyone has a circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
And for me, noticing that there were certain times a day where my thoughts were very dark allowed me to not engage with them at those times. And when you engage with them, it's a feedback loop, and then you spiral, and it'll save you a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of grief.
Mm-hmm. When you identify it, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. I think I hope people definitely will get value out of this. If you're an artist and you're struggling, at least you need to understand like just the fact that there's other artists around the world has been through something similar, and we made out fine, I would say, or maybe even better with this kind of experience. And then again, like the value I want to convey on this podcast is like it's hard. Like this is probably the most challenging thing you encounter in your life, but at least there's people with you. Because I even if people are listening to it, I'm always open for emails. Like if you're struggling, not even if you don't even need to be in art. Like if you write me something, like I'll try my best to reply every time. Because even nowadays, I just starting to like coach people by not trying to be too harsh, but stuff like try to take a little more sun, or like reward yourself, buy yourself ice cream every day. Just small little habits that could make you better. So again, it's a very hard process. It's not easy to do. There's no quick fix, but there's someone did it, and then we're gonna make a better world if we help each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
There's greatness lying behind all the struggles.
There's treasure, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be worth it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's slay that dragon.
Slay that dragon, people. All right. So that's it for this entry. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Christopher, for
Dino.
being here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I hope everyone gets value out of this. So I'll stop right here. Goodbye, people.